Professor Ladiana Hills, Vice Dean of the College of Humanities, to the English Department authorities, Professor Gloria De Ho, Principal of the English Department, Professor Adrian Jimenez, Head of the English School, Professor Florencio Diaz, Director of the Extension and Continuing Education Coordination, Professor Marisol Ortega, Coordinator of the Continuing Education Coordination of the English Department, Mrs. Eidikel Santimateo, Administrative Coordinator of the Extension and Continuing Education Coordination of the College of Humanities. To our speakers, Professor Orlando Guerrero and Professor Hania Bonilla. This is a message for you. Never stop learning because life never stops teaching. My name is Randy Morales, a professor of the English department. I'm part of the seminar organizing committee, and I'm going to be your host this morning. It is very great. It is my very great honor to welcome everyone to the seminar, Implementing Literature in English Teaching to Develop Language Skills. This is our fourth seminar of the year 2023. 2023. We would like to express our gratitude to Mrs. Eidikel Santimateo, Administrative Coordinator of the Extension and Continuing Education Coordination, who has accompanied us during the preparation of this seminar, and the English Department Organizing Committee. We want to call first Professor Marisol Ortega, Coordinator of the Continuing Education Coordination of the English Department, with some welcoming words.
Thank you, Randy. Good morning, Dr. Amido Garcia, Professor Ladiana Hills, Professor Gloria De Ho, Professor Adrian Jimenez, Professor Florencio Diaz, Mrs. Eidikel Santimateo, and to our lecture speakers of the day, Professor Orlando Guerrero and Professor Hania Bonilla. And good morning to you, all our participants. It is my honor to welcome you to this seminar. Now we have a different topic, which is literature. And good morning to all our wonderful organizing committee, Professor Randy Morales, Mrs. Bishop, Professor Veronica Forte, Professor Suri Palacios, Joel Alvarez. Well, without them, it wouldn't have been possible to have this seminar. Thank you to all of you. And we would like to thank, of course, our speakers for being here today. There is a quote by Vernon Howard that says, "Always walk through life as if you have something new to learn, and you will." That thought has accompanied me for a long time, and I think that's what we do. That's what you are doing, because nowadays we have to learn and relearn, and we have to be able to acquire new knowledge, and sometimes we have to learn and forget what we learned before, because now things are different, so we have to relearn now. Thank you for being there. Before we start, I would like to express our gratitude to our Lord with a few words of prayer. So, because I think that without His help, nothing would have been possible. Yeah. Let us pray. We ask you, Lord, to enlighten our minds and our understanding during all these days. May your wisdom be with us so that we will be able to assimilate all the knowledge you have in store for us. Give us the strength, the health, the intelligence, and abilities to reproduce and put into practice everything we learn. We also commit our professors of this seminar, Professor Orlando Guerrero, Jania Bonilla, Glorita Riquelme, and Lourdes Gomez. We ask you to guide them in everything they do. Take control of every single detail. And we thank you, Lord, for being with us during this journey. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, thank you for being here, Randy. We are please welcome our...
Yes, thank you, Professor Ortega, for your welcoming words. And now, without further delay, we call Dr. Olmedo Garcia, Dean of the College of Humanities, who has some welcoming words. Doctor, go ahead, please.
Gracias. Buenos días a todos y a todas en este seminario de media temporada que el Departamento de Inglés ha promovido para seguir actualizando y desafiando la formación de los docentes y de los investigadores. Quisiera también extenderle esta mañana un caluroso saludo a la coordinadora de formación docente, la profesora Marisol, y su equipo, la comisión, que ha mantenido siempre viva la esperanza de continuar formando a nuestros docentes, y creo que es uno de los baluartes más importantes que tenemos hoy en el conocimiento y en la educación superior. A nuestra directora y director, profesora Gloria Jo, profesor Adrián Jiménez, al equipo de educación continua presente, la profesora Eriquel, profesor Florencio Díaz, que nos están acompañando a crear más esperanza sobre una de las herramientas más importantes de la vida, que es tratar de formarse, porque ahí es donde uno trata de construir un pensamiento distinto de una realidad y tratar de problematizar sobre esa realidad. El conocimiento no viene solamente por la vía de la experiencia o por el mundo popular o por la magia. El conocimiento se construye como lo están haciendo ustedes actualmente. Nuestra universidad tiene un desafío hoy, y ese desafío no solamente son mantener el principio de una universidad pública, popular, abierta, democrática. También necesitamos una universidad que le dé herramientas, que le dé baluartes para continuar formando y desafiando las grandes paradojas de este mundo. Este mundo se ha ido transformando vertiginosamente, y hoy, cuando nosotros pensamos que hace un siglo apareció un conocimiento cada una década, hoy el conocimiento aparece, o 5 conocimientos aparecen cada día. Esto es el mundo de la velocidad del conocimiento, y nosotros tenemos que seguir actualizando a nuestros docentes. Creo que el Departamento de Inglés ha sido uno de los símbolos de la vanguardia. Nosotros tenemos que reconocer, y por eso es todo el apoyo, porque podemos nosotros tener dificultades presupuestarias, de infraestructura, de laboratorio, pero la misión más importante que tenemos hoy nosotros es tratar de transformar la vida, transformar la realidad, transformar la esperanza, y eso lo hacemos de un mundo del conocimiento. Por eso que es importante hoy, antes de iniciar el segundo semestre, que se haya organizado esta tarea de la educación continua, tratar de reflexionar entre nosotros mismos, tratar de construir paradojas, tratar de examinar qué tipo de metodología o epistemología son necesarias. Hay muchos conocimientos en el mundo de hoy. La Internet es una máquina de producir conocimiento, pero la construcción del conocimiento de Internet no es la misma que la construcción del conocimiento de los cientistas en un aula. esto produce otra serie de energía y por eso es importante no enfrentar o confrontar la tecnología. Para nosotros es importante la tecnología, pero teniéndola claro que es una herramienta en el proceso del conocimiento. Por eso que desde la perspectiva que estemos nosotros hoy, creo que es importante dar este paso, seguir transformando nuestro conocimiento, seguir desafiando los grandes principios y las tareas de nuestra universidad, desde donde estemos, desde la enseñanza del idioma, el mundo intercultural, el mundo bilingüe. Creo que es importante para nosotros compartir y reflexionar, porque no solamente el departamento de inglés tiene la responsabilidad de enseñar los códigos de los saberes del idioma. Tenemos bien claro que esta universidad está insertada en un contexto de un mundo donde no cree en el desarrollo del conocimiento, cree en la industria, cree en el mercado, cree en la fuente de producción directa al mercado, pero no cree en la vida espiritual, no cree en el desarrollo de la esencia de la ética para construir un mundo más solidario. Por eso es lo importante la educación continua. La educación continua no es solamente para formar esos instrumentos del conocimiento, de la tecnología. La educación continua es un baluarte y un principio de formación para transformarnos, para transformar este mundo, para desafiarlo. Y por eso nosotros, uno de los pilares de la Facultad de Humanidades es la educación continua. Nosotros queremos darle la bienvenida a todos los que esta mañana están presentes, a todas las que están presentes. Creo que es la responsabilidad nuestra. Y antes de iniciar nuestro segundo semestre, qué mejor que ustedes estén en un taller y en una aula que de nuestra universidad, creando lo máximo de las gotas posible para que esa gota hoy sea la gota que reproduce la vida, la esperanza y aprender a naufragar todos juntos. Les deseo la mejor de la suerte durante este seminario y tengan ustedes la seguridad de que podemos seguir contando con ustedes en esta esperanza de crear más conocimiento y más desarrollo para nuestro pueblo. Doy las palabras de bienvenida y finalmente les reitero que estos 5 días nosotros podamos compartir reflexiones profundas sobre lo que es la actualización del conocimiento. Gracias y buen día a todos y a todas.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia, for your words. Now we call Professor Adrián Jiménez, head of the English School.
Good morning. Thanks God for giving us the opportunity of sharing this enlightening moment today. First, I will say good morning to Professor Dr. Romero Garcia, Dean of the College of Humanities, Magister Leidiana Hills, Vice Dean of the College of Humanities, Magister Gloria de Ho, Chairperson of the English Department, professors, members of Extension, Culture and Continuing Education, Professor Florencio Diaz, Coordinator Edikel Santi Mateo, special guests, professors from all provinces, regional centers, student friends, thank you for accepting this challenge of coming to this wonderful seminar, Implement Literature in English Teaching to Develop Language Skills. Okay, first of all, I would like to say thank you to Professor Marisol Ortega and the members of the committee, Professor Bishop, Joey Alvarez, Randy Morales, and others that have created like a great effort to have this dream come true. This is our 3rd seminar. Excellent. It's like it has been like a lot of work. I have seen all this process. This has been, but this is a wonderful experience that I want you to share. Also, I would like to. I forgot Veronica Forte. Very important. I like when she tells like the different kinds of expressions and quotes. Thank you, Veronica, too. Okay. I would like also to give a warm welcome to the speakers. They are my friends, my colleagues. I have met them like more than 20 years, a lot of time. Professor Gorita Riquelme, Hania Punilla, they have created excellent workshops, excellent projects, and they have helped students to develop their creativity. Thank you. Also, we have Professor Lourdes Gomez. Lourdes Gomez. I encourage you to read her short stories. She has created many books, interesting books that I would like you to read and enjoy the wisdom, the culture that she shares in her work. Also, Professor Orlando Guerrero. Thank you, Professor Orlando Guerrero. I don't know if you know, but he's called the reincarnation of Shakespeare. He knows everything about literature. He every day he is like up to date. He's reading and buying books and more books and more books. So he is like the representation of like the literature itself. Thank you, professors, for being here. Okay, first of all, I would like to talk about the meaning of literature. If you take a look at the internet, it only says like is any collection of written work in general. No, by literature is more than that. If I continued like looking for different kinds of meaning, even like going back into my old times, so at the end I realized or I found that literature is a form of human expression. Literature is love, emotions expressed in writing. So literature is part of ourselves, is our culture, is history, is love. It has to do with values. It deals with many things that are part of our life. However, sometimes we don't see it. For instance, thinking about literature came to my mind the old times when my father used to tell me short stories, used to read Aesop's fables at night. And at this time, we don't do that with our children. So this is important to go back to those times when we have like emotions, we have feelings. I used to listen to the song Eternal Flame. You remember Eternal Flame? Close your eyes, give me your hand. So this is like a feeling, emotion, passion about literature that is important that we have to share this with our students. We have to give the light to them. So to make them feel, to make them creative. Okay. I also would like to mention Marisol Ortega's the dean's Dr. Meda Garcia's words. It's important to adapt to changes. There are different things that have taken place that there are like new tools that we have to use because knowledge is not enough. As Dr. Meda Garcia said, we have to apply it. So we have the knowledge here, but with the knowledge, we have to see how we can share this with our students. It's not easy, but this is why we are here. We're here to learn those new tools, new kinds of ways that we can apply all different kinds of techniques that we have in order to use them with our students. Finally, I would like to encourage you to share your experience and feel the passion. Go back to those old times and remember why we are here, why we are teachers. It's important to recover the energy, the internal energy that we have when we started. Don't give up. We can go, we can do it. And the proof that is that you are here and you're here to get the knowledge and apply it to our students. Thank you for being here. Welcome to all of you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Adrian. Now we have an important reminder for all our participants in this seminar. Let me read this for you. Attendance and participation are important. An attendance list will be shared daily at any time during the presentations. At the end of each day, lecturers will post assignments that must be completed and submitted the day they are assigned, but no later than the closing date of the seminar. Okay, now, we would like to call now our first speaker of this morning, Professor Orlando Guerrero. Professor Orlando Guerrero holds a BA in English from the University of Panama, also a degree in education and a master's in contemporary literature from the University of Panama. He has been teaching English at Santa Librada Junior High School since 1996 until the present. Besides, he has been teaching literature at the English department of the University of Panama since the year 2004 until the present. His topic, the use of literary terms in the classroom from the analysis of short stories. Professor Guerrero, go ahead, please.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me right? Okay, first of all, good morning. For me, it is an honor and it is a pleasure to present this topic because there is something that really calls my attention. Not because I have been teaching literature around, I can say, more than 18 or 19 years, but also is because I have met teachers and I have met professors who told me that when they're working in other universities or, for example, in the countryside, excuse me, they have been assigned to teach literature courses. They don't know how to do it. And I tell them an anecdote. I remember that when I began to work in the English department, I still remember Professor Arosemena. And once Professor Arosemena said to me, okay, Orlando, no literature courses for you, but you're going to be teaching phonetics the first semester and the second semester. And I was like, wow, I was in shock. And then I said to myself, okay, wait a moment, and believe me, it was a real challenge for me, because as I said, my master is in lit, not in linguistics, but I accepted the challenge and I learned a lot. Okay, I am going to begin with my presentation. I am going to divide my presentation in 3 parts. First, I am going to read little by little, and I am going to explain to you the literary terms, and I am going to share a reading, and finally, I am going to explain to you, for example, how you're going to write your analysis. Okay, so let us begin, and no time to lose. Okay, there we go. Can you see this, right? Yes. Excuse me. Okay, my presentation is the use of literary terms in the class. Okay, hopefully I don't have to tell you what meaning is. So let's continue. First of all, people, the most important thing is to know about the character, For example, it is something that for some of you, you're going to be laughing and you're going to be smiling because you're going to remember about Columba's time, right? Because she was the person who taught us, for example, how to read. And I still remember when I was her student in 1989, well, I am a young person, and I still remember her class, when she began to mention these literary terms. And I said, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to be able to memorize this, But then I remember that she said, my class is not memory, my class is analysis, So it is something that I'm going to explain to you little by little. For example, the character. A character is an individual in a story or play. Characters can be classified as major and minor, round or flat, and dynamic and static. For example, a major character is the most important person in the story. If you put him or her out of the story will not be the same. For example, we need Othello, we need Hamlet, we need Harry Potter, we need Romeo and Juliet. If we don't have them, we have no story. as simple as that. And it says, a minor character is not important in the story. If you put him or her out of the story, that story will be the same. But sometimes people, it's like a classification that I remember when I was in high school, that in my Spanish class, the teachers used to say, sorry, because I don't want to use Spanish, personaje primario y personaje secundario, right? So the same situation happens here. Mayor, as I said, is the most important person in the story. You have Pinocchio, you have Cinderella, you know what I mean, right? You have King Lear, and you have many others. A minor is because that person is not important in the story, you know? If you put him or her out of the story continues being the same. Now, the second classification, people, is about round character and flat character. You know, it makes me laugh because when I said round character, my sense think about a tire, and I said no. It's not that the person is fat, no. And I have to explain to them what is the meaning of a round character. A round character has more dimensions to their personalities. You know, they're complex, solid, and multifaceted like real people. For example, in a few words, people, we have a lot of information about them. You know, we take our time. For example, if we mention about, for example, Romeo and Juliet, we have to see that they are teenagers, you know, they have situations, they cannot, I mean, they're from with their families, and a lot of information about them. Now, a flat character has only one or two personality traits. They're one-dimensional, they can be summed up by a single phrase. Characters can also be classified as static and dynamic, but it is something that we are going to see later. I said flat is because the information that we have about him or her is not, I mean, not, I don't want to say that the word that is not important, but the information is, yes, we have a lot of information about him or her. But in the case of flat, sometimes we have no information. And in some cases, maybe only or two adjectives, right, that describe him or her. Finally, people, the last classification is about static and a dynamic character. What is static? Is the one who does not change much in the course of the story. For example, the person begins being, you know, a person, and the person ends in the same way. The person doesn't change. But when I say a dynamic character, on the other hand, changes in some important way as a result of the story's action. For example, we have readings, for example, the one by James Joyce, The Boy in Arabic, you know. At the beginning of the story, the boy is young, naive, innocent. And at the end of the story, he realizes that life is not what he thought. For example, in the case of about some tragedies of William Shakespeare, for example, Hamlet, Macbeth, Othello, King Lear, you know, we are going to notice that all of them have metamorphoses, you know, have changes. Now, another thing, people, that we are going to see is, okay, when you say a conflict, you know, is a struggle or clash between opposing characters, forces, or emotions. In literature, we have three types of conflicts that are man against man against himself, and man against environment or nation. As I mentioned before, a conflict is when you have a problem. And those situations are classified as I mentioned before. Okay, the first one is man against man. Is when the character has a conflict with another person or with other people. In some cases, let me clarify this. When I say the word man, not necessarily is about a man, it can be a woman. For example, we have a situation of man against woman or woman versus woman, you know? Then the other classification is man against himself. The same situation, my friends, is going to happen. Because in the reading, maybe the main protagonist is a woman and she has a problem with herself. Here is man against itself is a struggle between opposing needs, desires, or emotions within a single character. And finally, people, the last one is man against nature or environment. Is when a character struggles against some outside forces, another character, society as a whole, or some natural force. For example, it's like I always use this example. There is a movie, excuse me, people. There is a movie that won the Oscar, and the name is Crash. And in Crash, the setting is LA, Los Angeles. And in that movie, we have the struggle of the Latin people, the Black people, the Asian people, and the people from those countries in Arabia, that they have problem with the LA. LA symbolizes the United States. And those people are fighting against, the LA because they do not fit in that. Also, for example, when I say about this conflict, it's when a character, depending, as I said before, if it is a man or it is a woman, he or she doesn't fit in a place. And remember, people, that when you don't fit in a place, definitely you're going to have problems. It is a fact. Epiphany. Okay, what is the word epiphany? Obviously, people, excuse me, it is a word that we have seen when we go to church. It's la epiphania, right? In a literary work, a moment of sudden insight, sorry, people, or revelation that a character what? Experiences. But first of all, let me explain to you, what is the meaning of the word epiphany. In Western Christianity, the feast commemorates principally, but not solely, the visit of the Magi, to the Christ child, and thus Jesus Christ's physical manifestation in us. It is sometimes called Three Kings Day, and in some traditions celebrated as Little Christmas. Remember, people, this festival is celebrated on January the 6th, and it is when the wise men, they were looking for Jesus Christ, and they found Jesus Christ. In few words, people, Epiphany is a moment of revelation. For example, you are blind, you are totally blind. Something happens, and you open your eyes, you see the light. For example, let me share with you an experience. For example, it is like if I have a friend, and we have been friends for years, suddenly something happens. And then you realize that that person who was your friend is not your friend, And you're like, wow, but what happened, So this is an epiphany, you're blind, then you open your eyes and you see that. Because it is something that, as I said before, we're going to find epiphanies every day in our lives. Okay, what is a foreshadow? The word foreshadowing, people, in a few words, is like a premonition, a premonition. Something bad is going to happen, it's a premonition. For example, the use of clues to hint at what is going to happen later in the world. In a few words, foreshadowing is a kind of premonition. As I said, something bad is going to happen. However, not all foreshadowings are negative. In most of the cases, there are negative things. However, in some readings, it depends on the reading, or it depends on the author, right? We are going to see good things. There is a poem that I use, that I am used to teach, that is When you read the first stanza says that the king is sitting on his throne, drinking the red blood wine. Right away, when you think about red blood wine, you know, it is a symbol, but also it is a symbol. And at the end of the poem, we see that Patrick Spen, the main character of the poem, he dies. You know, this is a here, for example, this is an example that I want to share. For example, if a character mentions of handling that things always happen to them in autumn, then the observant reader will be alert when the leaves in the story begin to fall. Because, for example, the person says that something bad is happening in autumn. For example, there is a novel by Ernest Hemingway, is A Farewell to Arms. In that beautiful, it is a beautiful love story between Frederick Henry and Catherine Barclay. And in that novel, Catherine always says that she doesn't like the rain. She doesn't like the rain. Because whenever she sees the rain, she sees herself dead in the rain, you know? And at the end of the novel, when she was giving birth, she died, and it was raining. Irony. You know what irony is, okay? Irony is a contrast or discrepancy between expectation and reality, between what is said and what is really meant, you know? What is expected and what really happens, or between what appears to be true and what really is true. In literature, we have three types of ironies that are the following: verbal irony, dramatic irony, and situational irony or irony of situation. I remember that when I was studying literature with Professor Coloma, he used to say irony situation. Nowadays, people call it situational irony, but it's the same. What is a verbal irony? A verbal irony occurs when a writer or speaker says one thing, but really means something quite different, often the opposite of what he or she has said. For example, if I say, my goodness, the day is very hot, obviously it is not, and I mean the opposite. Now, what is a dramatic irony? A dramatic irony occurs when the audience or the reader knows something important that a character in a play or story doesn't. This is very, very common, people, when you're watching the famous soap opera. For example, another example, people, happens, when you are reading the famous fairy tales. For example, in the case of Cinderella, when Cinderella, she went to the ball, and she entered the palace, the people said, my God, she's really beautiful, and we know that that beautiful girl is Cinderella, but the people who are in the party, they don't know who she is. Then, for example, another example of dramatic irony that I use, for example, when I am teaching children's lit, is when I mentioned the famous Snow White. Remember when Snow White, she was in the forest, and she was living in a little house, Suddenly, the woman, an old woman, appears, and offers her some apples. And she says, okay, I'm going to eat the apple. He said it is a dramatic irony because we know that two things. Number one is the apple is poison and she doesn't know. And number two is that that woman is not an old woman. That woman is her stepmother who wants to kill her. For example, Another example of dramatic irony happens in the famous tragedy by William Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet, right? When Romeo is told that Juliet is dead, and he went to buy some poison and he drank the poison, we know that Juliet was not dead. He was sleeping. So this is what we call dramatic irony. And I mention this because it is something that we see, not in my case, because I have no time for this. You know, when the people are watching the famous soap operas, we have a lot of dramatic irony. Now, the other classification is an irony situation or situational irony. Occurs when what actually happens is opposite of what is expected or appropriate. For example, as I mentioned, the example of Romeo and Juliet, Romeo thinks that Juliet is dead. Then he runs, he buys poison, and the reality is that the girl is not dead, it's sleeping. Okay, what is it? Maybe this is a new word for some of you. And obviously for me, it was also a new word that I learned when I was doing my master. In literature, a word, a character, an object, an image, a metaphor, or an idea that recurs in a work or several works. For example, there is a novel by William Styron, and the name is Sophie's Choice. That novel, Sophie's husband is always asking her, Sophie, why are we dying? This is the repetition of the word death in the novel, And at the end of the novel, both of them committed suicide. Why? Because both of them were survived Holocaust, and that's why they committed suicide. For example, a motif I mentioned before in the novel by Ernest Hemingway. In the novel Ernest Hemingway, give me a moment, please. Okay, in the novel of Ernest Hemingway, for example, the same situation happens. For example, we notice that Catherine Bartley always tells Frederick Henry that whenever she sees the rain, she sees herself dead in the rain. And there is a repetition of the rain over and over again. And as I said before, when she was giving birth, she died and it was rain. And here it says, if a story features repeated images of hand, washing, mopping floors, and refreshing rain, then these images of cleansing water are a recurring literary motif. Now, a plot. Okay, the plot. The series of related events that make up a story or drama. In a narrative or creative writing, a plot is a sequence of events that make up a story, whether it is told, written, filmed, or sung. The plot is a story, and more specifically, how the story develops, unfolds, and moves in the time. Okay. In a few words, people, the plot is a summary of the story. Plots are typically made up of 5 main elements. The first one that we have here is the exposition. At the beginning of the story, the characters, setting, and the main conflict are typically what? Introduced. So this is a famous exposition. Then, let me see something. Okay, number 2, the rising action. The main character is in a crisis, and events leading up to facing the conflict begin to unfold. The story begins complicated. because the problems begin to appear and we are going to see that change in the story. Number 3 is the climax. At the peak of the story, a major event occurs in which the main character faces a major enemy, fear, challenge, or other source of conflict. The most action, drama, change, and excitement occurs here. It is a point where a character, can be a man or can be a woman, has to make a decision. Then we have the falling action. The falling action is the story begins to slow down and work towards tying up loose ends. And finally, people is the resolution, also known as that's a French word. The resolution is the concluding paragraph that resolves any remaining issues and ends the story. Basically, people, I remember when I was studying lit, we have 7 parts, you know? For example, here we have 5 parts. Well, the famous point of view. Yes, it's really amazing, people, to see how literature is changing. Because I remember when I was studying lit, many years, well, not many years, some years ago, I remember that I learned about the classification of authors. For example, the vantage point from which a writer tells a story. There are 3 main points of view. Okay, people, can you give me a moment, please? Okay, give me one moment, please. Sorry, people, I want to apologize. This is because outside they're cleaning the yard and it is making a funny noise. You know what I mean? And it interrupts. Okay, let me go back. Okay, the vantage point from which a writer tells a story. So there are 3 main points of view. First person, limited third person, and omniscient third person. Obviously, people, when you say in the first person point of view, the narrator is a character in the story. The narrator uses the pronoun I. For example, one common example is Arabi. In the story Arabi, the protagonist is a boy and is using always a pronoun I, and I, because definitely he is a protagonist. In a few words, the author is the protagonist of the story. Then the other classification is in the limited third person point of view, the narrator is outside the story like an omniscient narrator, but tells a story from the vantage point of only one character. Exactly, because here, you know, the author participates in the story, but he is observing everything. And finally, the last classification, in the omniscient or all-knowing point of view, the person tells. The person telling the story knows everything that is going on in the story. Definitely, he doesn't participate because he knows everything, how people act, how people behave, what people do this, because in reality, people, he is the person who wrote the story and he doesn't. As I said before, the first classification is first person point of view, exactly, when you're using the pronoun I. Then the other classification is limited third person point of view. You know, the person is just observing, and omniscient because the person knows everything but doesn't participate. Okay, the setting. What is a setting? The setting is the time or place of a story or play. the setting can function in 3 different ways. It can be symbolic. For example, some places are symbolic, and it is symbolic. For example, I use the example of one of the short stories written by Edgar Allan Poe, The Fall of the House. It is about Roderick Orchard and Madeleine Orchard. In the story, we have to see that they're twins and they have a disease. But also at the same time, the house is falling apart. And when the twins died, also the house disappears. So the house is symbolic. For example, the same situation happens in the play by Tennessee Williams, the famous Streetcar Named Desire. When Blanche arrives to visit her sister Stella, the place where Stella lives, it is an old place that is also falling apart. Symbolically speaking, it is about Blanche's worst fantasy that is going to disappear. Number 2, it can take the place of a character. What happens? For example, here, as I mentioned before, I live in a place, but I do not fit in that place, and that place is fighting against me. That place is like a character that is fighting against me. And finally, people, it can be a determinant of a theme. What does it mean? When I say the determinant of a theme is, for example, use 2 examples. Number 1, 100 Years of Solitude, Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Remember, the setting of the novel is the famous Macondo. And what happens in Macondo only happens in Ecuador. As simple as that. For example, there is another American author, William Faulkner. And William Faulkner talks about the South. He talks about the famous Yoknap County. And what happens in Yoknapata County only happens in Yoknapata County. For example, the situation happens in my beautiful Panama. For example, when I mentioned the carnivals, for example, it's not the same what happens in the carnivals when you go to Paquira or Chitreo or los carnavales in the fabrics. No, it's different things. Okay, a symbol. What is a symbol? Definitely you know what a symbol is. Symbol is a day, a person, place, thing, or event that stands both for itself and for something what? Beyond itself. For example, a red rose symbolizes what? Love, while a raven is a symbol of death and doom. Anything that serves as a representation of the bigger idea is called symbolic. For example, the color white symbolizes innocence, purity. For example, the color red is about love, about action, For example, the colors are symbolic, the names are symbolic. For example, when we talk about symbols, for example, we use biblical allusions, because some names from the Bible are also symbolic. However, some symbols, let me tell you this, are easy to identify easily. But there are other symbols that, which means that you have to read again and again and again until you find the answer. Or, for example, you find the answer, that the author is trying to tell us. Okay. Then what is a theme? A theme here is the central idea or insight about human experience revealed in a work of literature. For instance, I decided to use this John Steinbeck. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but this is a famous classic, A Great Wrath, about a family of tenant farmers who are displaced from the land in Oklahoma. It's a book whose themes might be said to include the humanity of capitalism, as well as the vitality and necessity of family and friendship. For example, in readings, in short readings, for example, in a fable, we have one theme that is a moral, and it is something that we're going to see this coming Wednesday, God willing. Then, for example, in a short story, we have one theme, two themes, or three themes. In a novel, we have more. And even in poetry, we have different themes or different things. Okay. Now, people, I want to share, okay, let me see. I want to share with you this reading. It is not that we are going to read the reading, right? But I want to share the reading with you, and maybe you're familiar with this, because we read it, those of you who were Professor Colomba's students. The famous Hills Like White Elephants. For example, when we have this, the first thing that we're going to see is the, right? I always, as a professor of it, I tell my students about Ernest, and I mention about his life, among his short stories and novels that he wrote. Then this is a famous reading, Hills Like White Elephants. For example, from the very beginning, I tell my students to see this, because it calls, their attention. Hills like white elephants. And I mention emphasis to this, white elephants. And right away, people, I emphasize the color, as I said before, I don't begin the analysis right away. I go little by little. Then people here, for example, it says the hills across the valley of the Ebro were long and white, and people from the very beginning, right? The author is explaining about the setting of the story. Definitely here we have the word Barcelona. Barcelona people is in Spain. And also here it says, on this side there was no shade and no trees, and the station was between two lines of rails in the sun. Here it says there's a conversation. What should we drink? The girl asked. She had taken off her hat and put it on the table. Now, here we have the girl. Right away, people, I make them think, the girl. Because notice, people, it's not a lady, it's not a woman, but it's the girl. And then it says the man. So here, from the very beginning, we have the protagonist of the story. He is the girl and he is the man, And we have to see that there is a contrast. She's a girl. In reality, we don't know how old she is, and he is a man. Obviously, he is older than she. Here, people, it says, it's pretty hot. And then it says, let's drink. Obviously, beer is normal because it's too hot, and I want to refresh. And it says, dos cervezas. The man said into the curtain. Once a woman asks from the doorway, yes, two big ones. Here it is something that I want to say. Notice, people, the repetition of the number two. Here, dos cervezas. And here we have the repetition of the number two again. And then notice, the woman brought 2 glasses of beer and 2 taps. Notice again the repetition of the number two and the repetition of the number two. Third. Then she put the taps and the beer glasses on the table and looked at the man and the girl. As I said, the man and the girl. So we have to see the contrast, And it says, the girl was looking off at the line of hills. They were white in the sun, and the country was brown and dry. Notice people that the girl is the one who says that they look like white elephants. But also people, the expression white elephant is an expression in English. And it is something that we're going to see after when I begin the analysis. And then the man says, no, I have never seen one. And the man drank his tea. There's a conversation between them, and they continue talking. And then the girl says something like, anís del toro, and he said, it is a trick. Now, when I ask my students, what is anís? And they say, okay, some of them mention the famous anís del mono, and there is a drink and the name is del mono, you know? And they say, oh, and then I begin to ask them about the word anise. And some of them tell me, yes, Professor, the situation is that anise at the beginning tastes sweet, but after the flavor changes. Okay. And we have, you know, the woman came out from the bar. You know, the woman is the bartender. And again, we want two anís del toro. And notice people, the repetition of the number. Now people, you know, as mentioned before, the number 2 motif. Then it says, with water? Do you want it with water? I don't know. The girl said, is it good with water? It is all right. You want them with water? Asked the woman. Because notice people that we have a situation. The situation is about drinking, right? Drinking and drinking and drinking. You know, not only because, you know, the weather is hot, but also it's a situation related with the alcohol. And for example, he says, yes, with water. It tastes like licorice. The girl said, and put the glass down. Okay, so you have the word what? Licorice, you know? So that's the way with everything. Yes, said the girl, everything licorice, especially all things you have waited so long, like sin. Here I emphasize this word because this is a poison. And through the conversation that they have, you know, something is going to happen. Okay, the conversation continues, the girl is happy, and for her, everything is an illusion, you know? Oh my God, the mountains, they look beautiful, and they look like white elephants. But as I said before, you know, expression white elephants, it is an expression that is used in English. For example, the expression is, there is a white elephant in the room. You know? And we are going to see that there. The conversation continues. Drinking and more drinking, you know? Exactly. Then again, you know, the beer again, because they continue drinking and drinking. Then here, the problem begins. And it is when the man says, it's really an awfully simple operation, G, the man said. Now people, we have the name of the girl, Jig. And notice people that Jig is symbolic, you know? It is a symbol because it is an expression in English. And the man says, no, it's not a it's not really an operation at all. When my students begin to wonder about simple operation, you know, and I remember when I was studying this, I was like, wow, what is a simple operation? You know, and I began to wonder and wonder and wonder about the simple operation, you know. Because for the man, it's a simple operation. Yes, for the man, it's a simple operation, but not for the girl. And then he says, I know you wouldn't mind it, Jig. It's not really not anything. It is just to let the air in. Now the girl begins to think about the simple operation, and we see that the man is pushing the girl because according to him is a famous simple operation. And then here he says, that is the only thing that bothers us. It is the only thing that's made us unhappy. Exactly. Something is happening here. And when my students know, and it's a coincidence that when I teach this reading, the ones who give me the answer right away, are the girls and not the boys. And they say, Professor, the situation is an abortion. And I say, yes. The simple operation is an abortion. Because for men, an abortion is a simple operation. And here it says, that is the only thing that bothers us. It is the only thing that's made us unhappy. Obviously, the situation, and we have a conflict. We have a conflict because she's a young girl, obviously, and she wants to keep them. But the man is telling us, the man is telling her, no, it is what makes us feel unhappy. And then we see the famous dialogue between the man and the girl, Here, for example, the man says, I think it is the best thing to do, but I don't want you to do it if you don't really want to, and there is a fight, between the man and the girl. But obviously, as I said, he is the man and she is the girl. Obviously, he is older than she, and he is the master of the game in this situation. Some critics or scholars think that the American man is Ernest Hemingway, because Ernest Hemingway was traveling around different countries, Italy, Spain, Cuba, for example, where he wrote his masterpiece, The Old Man at the Sea, and he has traveled to different countries. And then we have the debate, between the girl and the man. Then notice this. The girl stood up and walked to the end of the station. Across on the other side were fields of grain and trees along the banks of the Ebro. Remember, the Ebro is a river in Spain. And it says, far away beyond the river were mountains. The shadow of a cloud moved across a field of grain, and she saw the river through the trees. Now, exactly, the story takes place, and we have to see that we have two sides. One side is about grain, it's about trees, it's about life. But the other side is not. It's totally the opposite, which is also symbolic. And then we see this part. For example, it says, they sat down at the table, and the girl looked across at the hills on the dry side of the valley, and the man looked at her and at the table. Now, one side is trees, grains, water, is about life, but the other side is about death. So symbolically speaking, as I mentioned before, the setting is symbolic. Now, then we continue. The situation continues. The man is pushing the girl, and for example, here she said, would you please, 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 7 pleases, stop talking. Because the girl, excuse me the word, is fed up that the man is pushing her, and she doesn't know what to do. And then again, people, he says, but I don't want you to. He said, I don't care anything about it. I'll scream, the girl said. And then it says, the woman came out through the curtains with 2 glasses of beer and put them down on the damn felt pads. Again, people noticed the repetition of the number. And finally, people, this reading is not funny, but it's really sad because we have this. And then he says, he picked up the 2 heavy bags, and again, the repetition of the number 2. The situation, people, is that the ending is open, because at the end of the reading, the girl says, I feel fine, she said. There is nothing wrong with me, and I feel fine. Obviously, if we see this is a big irony because it feels bad. Now, if I ask my students, for example, about the things that we have in the reading, we have to see that there are two motifs. One motif is drinking, they're drinking and drinking and drinking. Here, and it's El Toro, everything is drink, right? And also another motif is the number 2. Why? Because the man doesn't want any baby, The man is pushing the girl to have an abortion and that's it. He says, hey, please, you and me, right? No one else. Okay, my friends. Now, I am going to show you, for example, when I give a class, how I begin the analysis. Now, here's some chance. Okay. I got something happening here. Here we have the analysis. This is how I work on the analysis. As I mentioned, I always begin with the characters. Definitely, the first one is the American man. As I mentioned before, people, the American man is older than she, he has a power, he has money, he speaks English, he's a master of the game. Then we have the girl. Remember, we don't know how old she is. Some people think that she is a teenager, right? Because the man says the girl, and obviously people, she is victim. Because, in one way or the other, they're traveling, they're having fun, but now she wants to have a baby, she wants a family, but the American man says, no way, Jose. Now, people, as I mentioned before, themes. The themes are the ideas. For example, in this reading, one idea is about talking versus what? Communicating. Why? Because notice people that one thing is to talk and the other one is to communicate. When I have a problem, I want to be listened, but here no, because there is a constant fight. The man says, no, I don't want you to do it. But in reality, people, everything is a big irony because the man is pushing the girl to do it, and the girl says, but please, please, please. So this is about talking versus communicating. They're talking and talking, but there is no communication. There is no agreement. And notice people that the end of the story is like that. We don't know what happens at the end of the story. Then another theme that is presented in the story is about choices and consequences. For example, we don't know because, as I said, and I'm going to be very respectful because concerning to the word abortion, because abortion is not easy, And for example, in some of the cases, well, not in some of the cases, the final decision concerning to the word abortion, the woman is the one who has the final decision, not the man. And when I say choices and consequences, is that we don't know. For example, maybe the girl accepts to have the abortion and she thinks that she's going to continue living happy with a man, traveling and everything, because according to the man, it is the only thing that makes us unhappy. Now, another idea is doubt and ambiguity. Exactly, there is a doubt. And also we have doubts because, the man is pushing to do this, the girl says no, and we have that constant fight. And another thing that is presented about this is about men and women. In the majority of Hemingway's short stories, in the majority, the man has the power. No? The man has control of the situation, and the woman or the girl knows. She is the one who has to follow, or the woman has to obey what the man says. And this is a situation that we have here. And I personally believe, it's my personal perception, because I have taught this reading for years. And it is not because I know this by heart, but I like teaching it. That my final conclusion is that, as I said, the ending is open, but I think that the girl, in order to be in peace, in order to be with the man, she's going to have the abortion. Besides that, she's a girl, she has no money, she doesn't speak English. Because something that we have to see is that maybe the protagonist is from Spain and he is the American man. And as I mentioned before, Ernest Hemingway was American. And some people think or believe, not me, that critics or scholars, they think that Hemingway is the famous American man. Okay, that's it. I told you that setting is symbolic. For example, here, Hemingway sets, hills like white elephants at a train station to highlight the fact that the relationship between the American man and the girl is at a crossroads. For example, notice here, the contrast between the white hills and a barren valley possibly highlights the dichotomy between life and death, fertility and sterility, and mirrors the choice the girl faces between having the baby or having the abortion. In a few words, it's because the girl is between life and death. So that's why people here, the setting, as I mentioned before, is symbolic. Remember, the setting functions in three different ways. Can be symbolic, can be determinant of a theme, or can take the place of the character. For example, by the setting in half with one side sterile and the other fertile, Hemingway uses the setting to reinforce the division between the couple. They can choose sterility through the abortion or fertility through pregnancy. Okay, now, remember, my friends, that I mentioned about the famous motif. And remember, a motif is a repetition. Definitely, one is drinking, 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 and more drinking. Because they had two cervezas, two Anis del Toro, licorice, everything is drinking and more drinking. And the other motif that I mentioned, is the famous number 2. For example, the story contains a word 2 throughout it, which reinforces that Eve and her boyfriend are not ready to be a 3 until family. That they're happy right now with 2 people. They had 2 glasses of beer and 2 felt pads. The train only stopped at this junction for 2 minutes. And they only had 2 heavy bags. They are not ready for a child, and that is why there's an emphasis on the word 2. However, ironically, the word 2 also means that she feels that she's ready to have the baby. She could be seeing herself and the baby as 2, and thus she is thinking of keeping the baby. And also because in this story, the man says the word it, because for him, notice, he tells the girl that this is a simple operation, and after that, they will continue being happy. In a part of the reading, he uses the pronoun it, referring to the baby as an object and not as the person. So the number 2 emphasizes that he doesn't want anybody between them. Simple as. Okay, the point of view, I don't have to tell you. The point of view is about narrator omniscience. Why? Because the narrator knows everything. The place, what the girl thinks, what the man thinks, how they act, he knows everything. Obviously, people, The author of this short story is my friend Ernest Hemingway. But in this story, the example of narrator that we have is a narrator omniscient because he knows everything in that story. Okay, an epiphany. Remember, told you people, an epiphany is a moment of revelation in your life. At the beginning of the story, you know, the girl seems pleased of traveling with the American man to different places. They love traveling, drinking, and living their crazy life, the famous vida loca. When the American man talks about a simple operation and that everything is going to be fine, the girl thinks that it's little by little. We notice how the man keeps insisting on the simple operation that, according to him, makes them happy. Obviously, every woman's goal is to be a mother, but the reality shows us that her dreams begin to chatter. She was blind because when you are in love, you are blind. Now she's able to see that everything was sex and more sex. Her dreams of becoming a mother and have a lovely family will vanish. She realized that everything was a dream and she was living an illusion of everything was an illusion of everything was a dream. Okay. Foreshadowing. Yes. As I said before, people, we have a foreshadowing in the story, you know. As I told you, a foreshadowing is when something bad is going to happen. As I said, and I repeat again, the setting of the story is symbolic. But also here it says, the setting of the story in a certain way foreshadows what will happen at the end of the story. The dry side symbolizes death, and the fertile side symbolizes life. You know, the girl is in a crossroad imposed by the American man, who, ironically, exactly because this is a total irony, when the man says, I love you, and I love you, and I love you, ironically tells her that he loves her. But at the same time, his interests are to get rid of the picture that is inside G. Using the pronoun it, the American man allows us that he does not care about G, and he has other thoughts in mind, but to have a family is an impossible dream. Now, people, the conflict. I said, we have in literature 3 conflicts: man against man against himself, and man against environment. For example, the first conflict that you see right away is between the American man and the girl, you know, because the reading is a constant fight between the man and the girl, you know, the man that is pushing the girl, this is a simple operation. I mean, go ahead, I love you, and everything. And then the other conflict that we have here is man against himself. Or as I told you, can be man against herself, because the person who has a conflict is the girl, you know? And as I mentioned before, when we have a situation like this, the person who has a final word is the woman, not the man, you know? And as I said, the girl, you know, young, naive, innocent, you know, she has no money, she doesn't speak English, so she doesn't know where to go, you know? It depends on the man. Ironies, my goodness. In reality, it's funny, you know, because the reading is about ironies. I love you, and I love you, and I love you. And everything is love and more love. And at the end, you know, that love disappeared. You know? We were traveling, we were having fun. Sorry, I don't want to use the word. A lot of hanky-panky, a lot of this, you know. But then what happens? Then what happens? Everything was a game. Symbols. Oh, yes. Definitely, my friends, we have a lot of symbols when we analyze this. For example, let me show you the symbols. For example, white elephants. Exactly. White elephant is a symbol. And as I told you people, for example, there is an expression in English that says, there is a white elephant in the room. You know, this is an expression that the American people use. And This expression refers that there is a big problem that nobody knows how to deal with it. For example, here, for example, comparing the hills and metaphorically the baby to elephants also records expression, the elephant of a room, a euphemism for something painfully obvious that no one wants to discuss. You know, when you say there is a white elephant in the room, it's because there is a problem and nobody wants to talk about it. Also, people, for example, people are begin to wonder when they read this story because the people are thinking about the India. And they ask me if the white elephants exist. According to what I have read, some people say yes and some people say no, you know. But for example, in India, when a person is given a white elephant, you know, it's something very expensive to support. You know, symbolically speaking, here is the same situation that happens with the girl. To have a baby is not to have a cat, is not to have a dog or a parrot, you know, no way, Jose. To have a baby is a big responsibility. No, it's not a doll, it's not a Barbie, no way. It's something, you know. For example, the original meaning of a white elephant came from the Indian society. A white elephant is a creature that the Indian society would consider sacred. And if a person were given a white elephant, they would be expected to take care of it and never let it die. However, elephants eat tons of food and would be extremely expensive to take care of. The white elephant would eat a person of their house and leave them with no money. A white elephant is an unwanted gift, which is now the modern day meaning of a white elephant. Therefore, the meaning of the title is an unwanted pregnancy or unexpected pregnancy. It is still a gift, but she does not know that what she is going to do with the gift, and her boyfriend does not want her to have the words everything. It, sorry. Remember people that word it. For the man, it is it. And everything and it. Because for him, the baby has no value. It's an object. And he uses the word everything, anything, or it. As simple as that. I've seen. Okay? For example, when the girl says everything tastes of licorice, especially all the things you have waited so long for, like I've seen, the line means that Jig has been waiting to become pregnant, and now that she feels that she has to kill the unborn baby. Absinthe is a kind of drink. However, it is also considered a poison, which means that in Jig's mind, she has already made up her mind that she's going to kill the baby. However, in her heart, she still has not made her decision. Another symbol, you know, as I told you, the setting is symbolic. The train means choice. On a train, the track can only lead one way or go in the opposite direction, which means that Jig has not made a decision about what she's going to do. At the end of the story, we still do not know what Jig is going to do or what train she's going to take. In addition, the Valley of the Ebro has a river running through it. The river representing life, the life of the baby. Right now, Jig does not know if she's going to keep the unexpected pregnancy. And her boyfriend wants their life as it used to be without pregnancy. However, as I said, the final decision is Jig's decision. Another symbol. Okay, Anis del Toro. Remember they mentioned about the famous Anis del Toro, the drink. Anis del Toro is a symbol. Okay, when she tries it, it says that it feels sweet but after it tastes sour. Symbolically, the drink symbolizes the relationship between them. At the beginning of any relationship between couples, everything seems to be sweet. Later on, when problems or situations come out, the relation turns bitter or sour. The same situation is seen here. The American man and the girl travel a lot, drink a lot, and live a crazy life. You know, la vida loca. Now that the issue of the baby comes out, the relationship between them begins to fall apart. Especially, G is the one who is more affected because of a youth, inexperience, and the fact of being naive makes her the victim of the situation. Her honeymoon has turned into a bitter moon, and she is the one who has the decision in her hands. Obviously, people, another symbol is the famous hot weather, you know? In fact, people, when the weather is hot, some people react in different ways. For example, when you read Romeo and Juliet in the third act, you know, the weather is hot, you know, and it is the scene when Romeo killed Tybalt, right? First, Tybalt killed Mercutio, and then Romeo killed Tybalt, and that day was really, really hot, symbolic. Some love to drink cold drinks. Others prefer going to the beach or swimming pool. Others try to look for places that have air conditioner and so on. In this story, the weather is symbolic. When the couple arrives to the valley of the Ebro, they realize the weather is very hot. They start drinking cervezas and anís del toro over and over again. The cold drinks refresh their bodies, but also help them forget about the situation of the simple operation. Exactly, because when you drink and drink and drink, you know, because I don't drink, I mean, I am honest, I don't drink, but some people do it because they want to forget their problems, you know? The cold drinks refresh their bodies, but also help them forget about the situation of the simple operation. However, the symbolism of the hot weather is to reaffirm that the weather stands for the situation that is going on. There is a moment of tension between them because them have a decision which they consider is the best. The man talks about the simple operation, and the girl has illusion of becoming a mother. Nevertheless, it depends on him, and his decision seems to prevail through the reading. And finally, here we have something that is called the iceberg theory and Hemingway's style. When I talked about the iceberg, you know, it's funny because some people think about the Titanic movie and I say, my goodness. But also this iceberg theory is because, for example, it says that we see one part of the problem, but we don't see the whole problem. Many first-time readers read Hills Like White Elephants as nothing more than a casual conversation between people waiting for a train, and therefore means the unstated dramatic tension lurking between each line. As a result, many people don't realize that the two are actually talking about having an abortion and going their separate ways, let alone revolutionary for its time. In accordance with his so-called iceberg theory, Hemingway stripped everything but the bare essential from his story and novels, leaving readers to see the remaining dialogue and bits of narrative on their own. Just as a visible tip of an iceberg hides as a far greater mass of ice underneath the ocean surface, so does Hemingway's dialogue reveal the unstated tension between his characters. In fact, Hemingway firmly believed that perfect stories come than through the actual words written on the page. The more a writer strips away, the more powerful the iceberg or story becomes. Hemingway stripped so much from his stories that many of his contemporary critics complained that his fiction was little more than snippets of dialogue strung together. Others have called his writing overly masculine. There are no beautiful phrases or breathtaking passages. Thus, the sheer basis. In Hills Like White Elephants, for example, both the American man and the girl speak in short sentences and rarely utter more than a few words at a time. Hemingway also avoids using dialogue tags such as he said or she said, and skips any internal monologues. These elements leave the character's thoughts and feelings completely up to the reader's own interpretation. Hemingway's fans, however, have lauded his style for its simplicity, believing that fewer misleading words paint a truer picture of what lies beneath. Okay, people. Basically, this is my analysis, and this is my explanation, about the use of literature. Now we have time, because I want you to know, excuse me, if you have questions, about the presentation. You have any question or any comment about the presentation?
Hello.
Hello, Lucy.
I am a little bit intrigued about the woman, the waitress, because she seems to interrupt the conversation every time.
It happens, but in reality, because this waitress is because there's a movie, and I saw the movie. It's a very short movie, and it is an old lady, because in that movie, when they arrive to the train station, the girl begins to look for a bathroom because she wants to throw up. And right away, the woman knows what is happening. And
yeah,
says, hey,
she's like a witness.
Exactly. It says, hey, don't worry. I know what is happening. And I say, hey, please, I am an old woman and I know what is happening.
Okay.
So in reality, yes, she doesn't participate, she's like a flat character, as I mentioned, right? But she's the bartender, the bartender that is always offering drinks and drinks and drinks.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other question, please? If do you want any doubt about the reading?
Professor.
Alejandra Carranza, tell me.
Are you going to share this information, these stories in Claro, in some platform? Because I want to read really more with more detail.
Okay, Alejandra Carranza, where are you from?
Santiago.
Oh, thank you. What a coincidence. I went to Santiago last summer and I had a really good time in Santiago City. Yes, Alejandra, we can get in touch and I am very happy to share with you this information. And God willing, I would like this coming summer, God willing, to travel to Santiago, and share my knowledge with the people of Santiago.
Okay, in the group, of the group.
Exactly. If you invite me, I go.
Okay, cool.
Well, not only me. I would like to all my Lourdes, Ania, and Glorita to maybe Lucy. Why not? Marisol too.
Okay.
Yes, Alejandra. I will be able to share my ideas. Well, not only with you, but also with the people.
With the public. Okay. Thank you, Professor.
You're welcome.
The audience. Thank you.
Bebita de Escudero. How are you? I can hear you.
Baby,
Pretty good.
you have to open your, yeah.
Yes, Bebita, I remember you. You are from Chitre.
Yeah. And
You
I'm
don't
in
remember
Chitre.
me. I was working for McGraw-Hill company when I had the opportunity to meet you.
Oh,
A
well,
seminar.
I thought that I'd seen you at the seminars that we used to go
Yes,
to
and I
FAECO.
well, not really FAECO, but I used to work at McGraw-Hill.
No,
So
but
it's a
I
pleasure.
think I've seen you at the seminars that we would go
Yeah.
to
Yes, I
FAECO
think.
to.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I've seen you.
Okay.
Nice seeing you again, and thank you for sharing your knowledge.
Thank you. Okay, my friends, any other question about, or any doubt about the reading or the analysis?
I was just thinking, I don't know the story, just from what I heard you tell us. And I was thinking, would that waitress represent like maybe the moral thing to do? Like she was always interrupting, like maybe, letting her know that she's on her side, or I don't know.
Are you talking about the weather?
No, I'm talking about, yeah, the story that you shared with us. Was that the name of it?
Hills like what elephants.
Okay.
In reality, let me tell you the truth about this. For example, some teachers say that they don't want to teach this in high school because this is complicated, and because because of the teenagers. And I say, okay, give me a break. However, as I said before, yes, this is not an easy one, because, well, as I said, I had the opportunity to analyze it when I was studying late with Professor Colomba, and also when I was doing my master, also we have the opportunity to analyze it again, right? And every day or every time that I have to teach this reading, I always find something new. And it's really amazing, Bebita and all the people who are here, that if you go to the internet, you're going to find a lot of things, analysis and interpretations about this reading, that sometimes even every word that he writes is a symbol. And say, my goodness, I'm busy, because as I said, it's not an easy reading, especially the end, because we don't know what happens at the end of the story. For example, the only thing that she's a young girl, she depends on the man, she doesn't have money, she doesn't speak English. So it's an open end. But in reality, I like teaching this. But also there are a lot of varieties of short stories, because we have to see if you're working in high school or if you're working at the university. And, sometimes, the parents, when you are teaching this kind of things, say, hey, my goodness, what is this? You know what I mean, right? Especially when you're dealing with a situation about abortion, which is a very delicate.
Another thing that I was thinking about the white elephants is nowadays, like when you talk about referring to a white elephant, like there's like the problem, so maybe there's a relation between the name and the situation that they're talking about.
As an expression that is an expression that there is a white elephant in the room.
Yeah, exactly. So, and these are hills of white elephants, so it's like they're dealing with a big problem.
And also, for example, the title, the color white, refers to the innocence of the girl. She's young, she's innocent, she sees life as a young girl, a world of illusions. And and at the end, as I mentioned, she has her epiphany. She realizes that life is not what she expects.
Yep.
Okay.
Well,
tell me. No. Any question? Okay, don't be afraid. I am here to answer your questions. No questions? Marisol, do you have a question?
Hi, Orlando.
Okay, Glorita.
I just wanted to congratulate you for your excellent presentation. And I also wanted to thank you for your time and effort. It has been really, really good. Congratulations for that.
Okay, thank you. Any other question?
No, I don't have any questions. I was thinking, I have analyzed that story before. And that's mainly, think deeply about the significance of the story. Actually, it's a situation that we see. It's a very common situation.
Yes, I can.
And especially in Latin America, you see.
Let me
In this case, this is a Latin girl that is, it's a woman that doesn't speak English, that is, depending on someone she doesn't really know. Because she didn't know about his feelings and about what he wanted from life. She just went ahead and started having a relationship with this guy that instead of getting to know first, she just went ahead and just plunged herself into a relationship that later on resulted what she didn't want to have. And I think it is a good story to teach high school students, especially girls, because that happens all the time.
Well, let me tell you something. That, for example, I work at Santa Librada Junior High School, and we have a situation with we have high school, we have the junior high school, and the 10th, the 11th, and the 12th. And the situation is very delicate because there are around 8 girls who are pregnant. And it's a situation that we have in our schools, a very, very delicate situation in schools.
Yeah.
So in one way or in another way, we have to, well, I am a man, I am a teacher, but it is a situation that, well, I'm not a psychologist, but I think that the parents also, they must talk to their kids about this. Unfortunately, I don't want to blame technology because technology is good and it's bad at the same time. It's up to you. You use it. For example, we are having a seminar through Zoom. Very interesting. Presentation through Zoom. Technology is good. We use the cell phones. For example, I use my laptop, I use internet to do my research, to do my homework, to do my things. But also, it will depend on you, how you use it. Simple as that.
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea for, even though there are, we have participants here that are not literature professors, but but you're in high school, and it's stories that you could, incorporate in your teachings to have them analyze, to have the students analyze what's going on in the story.
Because as I said, there are many, many things to see. For example, basically, it is something that I teach in the English department. But in a master program or even in a PhD program, wow, the analysis goes deep.
Deeper. Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rafael. How are you? Tell us.
I'm all right. Hey, I just wanted to ask you something, Orlando, concerning the teaching of some cultural aspects of American culture.
Okay, tell me.
The thing is, as you read this American writer short stories, you run into lots of cultural elements that are immersed. We have to read between the lines in order to, weave that out and explain some of these linguistic elements because they're literary and linguistic. You know that one of the reasons why literature gets difficult is because there isn't much of that cultural explanation. And I think that's obliged from the instructor or whoever is in charge of such a class to refer to all of those cultural elements. Now, is there any way you would suggest someone who is planning to embark in work that requires literary analysis to teach about culture, because it's really deep. Yeah, as you just said, it gets very deep. So how do you recommend someone to go about teaching culture through literature?
Well, first of all, what I do in my case, I begin to talk about the author, you know. For example, I mentioned to them about Hemingway, about the works that he wrote, you know, his novels and plays, no, short stories, and also about his way of being, you know. Because as you mentioned before, Rafael, yes, it's important that they know about it, because it's not only about reading, but also that in some of the cases, the author, you know, participates in the story, you know. As I mentioned before, some people think that the American man is Hemingway, you know, and not only in that short story, but also in the novel by A Farewell to Arms that he wrote. Some people think that he is the soldier, you know. Yes, this is, as I said, we have to be read more, you know, and to tell them, for example, how the people behave. Because as you mentioned, it's not about the leadership, but also it's about how people speak, you know, how people behave. So, as I said, the first thing that I do is that I sit down to read about the author lives. And also when I am reading, I begin to underline, you know, some phrases and expressions, right, that maybe we're not familiar with, you know. For example, I can tell you that some people, when I am teaching English, you know, they ask me, but professor, expression wanna and gonna is correct. And I say, well, not really, but you know, it's part of the American culture, you know. And also the same situation that happens, for example, when I am reading about English authors, you know, the same situation happens. For example, I am reading a novel now, The Test of D'Urberville by Thomas Hardy. And there are some parts of the novel that are a little complicated because, you know, this is the way how peasants speak, you know, and they cut the words, you know, and sometimes it's really hard to understand it and read it. Yes, my suggestion is that first, you know, when you are going to teach, you begin analyze the life of the author, you know. And for example, when you're reading, you begin to underline and you tell yourself, okay, this word is not typical word that people use, but this is a word that is used, for example, in the American English or maybe in the British English. For example, I remember once when I was in an English course, the word holiday, you know. For example, the American English holiday, you know, is a party, but holiday in English is vacation. So this is my recommendation.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. If you have any other question, feel free to ask.
Well, if there are no more questions, Professor Randy, it is 10 o'clock already. Professor Randy,
Well,
yeah.
Thank you, Professor Guerrero, for sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you.
Now we are going to take a little break.
How long?
So, excuse me?
How many minutes?
15 minutes, Professor Marisol. Is that correct? Okay, okay, good.
Remember not to go away. Just close your cameras, have your break, and we are going to be back in 15 minutes. Professor Randy is going to be showing a PPT while we are in our break, so please make sure you read it. This is in 15 minutes, Professor Randy.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, one moment, please. In English from the University of Panama and a degree in high school and in higher education from the University of Panama. As well, she also holds a master's in contemporary literature from the University of Panama. She worked as a high school English teacher for 20 years. She has been a literature teacher at the University of Panama since the year 2003 up to the present. Her topic is poetry and its poetic elements. Professor Bonilla, go ahead, please.
Hello, hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here and see some familiar faces. Yeah, well, I don't know if you can hear me perfectly because I have a fan in front of me. I'm not in my house. No electricity there since 2 a.m. Imagine, so I have to find another place to speak. Okay, so sorry for that, but let's see. Plan B. Okay. Let me see. So then, are you ready today to discover the poet within? Or to wake up the poet within? Yes or no?
Can you repeat the question, Professor?
If you're ready to discover or to wake up the poet within yourselves.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Good answer. Yes, let's be positive since the beginning. Okay, let me show you, since I like this word, positive. Let me show you very quickly. Let me share my screen. Okay, let me know if you see something. Okay, so okay, we are here. Let's see this on. Okay, can you see? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Let me see if I can show you. Okay, I just went to Google to find something positive for you to motivate ourselves. Okay, look, I usually do this in every class. Motivate since the pandemic. I started with this to motivate students to start the class because we all had different situations during that time. So I discovered that this is really good and it has some kind of impact on the mood of the students or the class. So trying to find something appropriate for this seminar, this session. I like this one. Listen to everyone and learn from everyone, because nobody knows everything, but everyone knows something. And this is, I'm sure that this is going to happen here this morning. And besides that, I also wanted to show you this one. Then I changed it to the one you see here. The expert in anything was once a beginner. So we are here as beginners, and then we can grow. So then after that, I also have a brainstorm activity. Let's see, I need to share a link. Okay, yep. So let me put it in the chat so you can access very quickly. Let's try to, I don't know if we can have like 5 minutes. So let's try to participate very fast, because there's a lot of material or content I like to show you and discuss. Okay, let me see if that works. Okay, it's there. So when you enter, okay, you enter with a word. Okay, the topic here is poetry. It's about poetry. So what you know about poetry, or what poetry tells you? How could you define it in just one word? One word for you. Oh, good. Okay. That for you it's metaphor, art, feelings. What else? What else? Every answer is correct. It's what you feel, what you consider. It's definitely true. It's feelings. Poetry is feelings. How you feel, how the poet feels at a specific moment. Emotion, imagination. Yes. You need a lot of imagination to create. The poet needs imagination. You need imagination to create your poems. Mm-hmm. Words. Oh, freedom. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Freedom. Yes, the poet's free. You are free to say whatever you want, the way you feel at a specific moment. There's a part of you there in those words. Music. Oh yeah, music. Depending on the choice of words, if there are similarities in sound, okay, that creates rhythm. That's music. Okay. What else? What else?
Buenas. ¿Dónde
Hello.
está?
Tú ves, buscas a tu mano derecha dentro del texto médico.
Ajá.
Lo que es
Gracias.
Thought. Yeah, thinking is involved here in this process. Something that takes time. Remember, I'm like you. I'm not an expert, but I'm trying. I'm discovering this, the beauty in poetry. So like you, so don't be afraid, because in this seminar we are going to create a poem. It's possible. So don't be afraid of this. So yes, a lot of thinking. Beautiful words. Okay.
Buenas. ¿Trabajas estudiando, no? Gracias.
I also want to share. Okay, let me. This is another part of the brainstorm. Let's copy the link. I'm changing something wrong. Wait. Give me a second. I have so many windows opened. Here. Where's that? Chat. So with this link, you can also enter padlet.com. Okay, you will see this. Okay, this part one, just the part one. Let's focus on the part one. So here's the activity that we just did, where you brainstormed what you thought about poetry for you. And even here you can have comments. Please, every time you write something in Padlet, in order to see who is participating, add your name. Please add your name at the end. And that would be great. And so I also have some questions. Some questions here says your comments about poetry. So here you can write more. Instead of just one word, you can give like your own definition.
Professor, I'm
And-
sorry to interrupt you. Do you know the code, the access code to Google Classroom?
Sorry?
Do you know the code to access to Google Classroom?
That was sent by mail. If you don't have it, send me your mail for me to send it to you. But anyway, Professor Hania, we cannot see what we are doing. We just see the presentation that you have, but we cannot see the Mentimeter or the Padlet. You're not sharing
Okay.
that. Mhm.
So it means that I have to go out and then start with the new screen.
Yeah, you have to stop sharing that one and start sharing the new one. Mhm.
Okay, new share. Yeah, I see.
Mhm.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, so we are here. But that doesn't appear the Menti. So here, this is the Padlet.com, where here we have the activity where you brainstorm one word to define poetry. And I also included some questions where you have your comments. Maybe we won't dedicate so much time because there are many things to cover. So you can participate here with your definition, more complete definition for you. Also, if you are familiarized with poetry, if you have ever written any poem, just to know. If this is new for you, perfect, no problem. If you have read one, if you like one specific poem, okay, you can write the author, etc. So share here, share your exposure to poetry. So so it's gonna be there. Here we have anonymous. Lucy, thank you for participating. One of my favorite poems is Bluebird by Charles. Sorry, Lucy, I don't know how to pronounce that. Bukowski?
Yeah, Bukowski,
Bukowski. Oh, okay. Bluebird. Interesting. Bluebird. So please feel free to write here. And like Lucy, you see the example, write your name at the end so I can know, I can see your participation. I don't know if you could see the part of Menti. Yes or no?
I can't seem to write anything.
Yeah.
The link
we didn't see the we didn't see the Menti.
No, I can see it. I can see.
So I shared the two links. The first one was for Menti for your brainstorm. Let me see if I can show you that. And the second activity is this one to participate with your comments about these questions related to poetry. If you're familiarized with that, if you have read, or if you have something a specific poem that you like, that you would like to recommend. Okay, here's anonymous. I see just anonymous. That's why it's important that you write your name at the end. Like in the case of Lucy, because you have not registered into that site, so that's why it's important. So someone wrote a paragraph. Yes, a paragraph. Yeah, paragraph in poetry, it's called stanza. So yes, one paragraph, perfect. One stanza, perfect. I'll show you one stanza that I wrote some years ago. I think is the only one that I have. I'll show you at the end of the presentation. But that's good. That's a good start. Yes, it's a way of expression. A way of expression, definitely. Anna Jansi, good, thank you. One more or two more in order to continue to go to the slides. Let me see if I find the main theater. I don't know where that went. Continue here. Okay, let me share this other slide. This is the first activity, the brainstorm. The collage of words. Now, can you see that?
Yeah. Human expression, beautiful words, talk.
That's good, good. Okay, so some of you have participated, giving one word for poetry for you. Okay, human expression, beautiful words, thoughts, pain. Oh yes, depending on the poem. If the poet maybe had a very sad experience, of course, that will be reflected on that specific literary work, that poem. Yes, pain. So there are feelings, because there are feelings in poetry. Joy, suffering, happiness, love, hatred, any feeling, any feeling. Definitely here I see art. Yes, poetry is art. Because I don't think that is an easy thing to do. So to produce a poem definitely requires, well, in some cases it's a talent. In other cases, it's something
Hello?
that you
Hello,
can acquire
Marisol.
with practice. Yes.
Sí, Marisol, disculpa, es que no puedo hacer nada, no puedo participar en lo que está diciendo la profesora Ania, no sé cómo escribir.
Okay, Professor Sandra. Sandra, if you go to the link in the chat, the one that says Menti, you click there, and that will give you the space to write a word, just that, and then you click, and it should appear here.
To the link.
Yeah, the first link that I shared in the chat in Zoom. Okay. So once you click there, that gives you the space to type your word.
Okay, I'll check it.
The same for the link in Padlet. You just click there, and that will take you to my Padlet. You don't. I don't think that you need to register. No, just it will take you sorry, it will take you there, and you can participate. But it will be anonymous, so that's why at the end try to write, add your name. So more people are participating. Good. Okay. In this case, it wasn't necessary to add your name next to the word, because that's not that important. It's just a brainstorm. So beautiful, beautiful people participating. Thank you. That's good. That's good. So yes, poetry is life. In fact, while I was waiting for my participation here, I wrote something about life. That poetry is life. Or life is a poem, because as life is full of experiences, feelings, emotions. Or it could be like life is a poetic experience. So I like that word, life. Life, yes. Our lives are poetic. Definitely. Okay, we need to move on. So it's there. You can continue participating when you have a chance. Now let me go to the PowerPoint. Okay. And here it is. Let me. What is there? Can you see my PowerPoint? Let me know, please.
The PowerPoint, the first.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, no problem.
Okay, let's start. Let's start with what I prepare for you. Okay. So you see the title, poetry, literary elements, but I think I shouldn't dedicate so much time to that because Professor Orlando dedicated a lot of time to that. So I'll try to speak less about that and then go to the poetic devices more, dedicate more time to that, and also the classification of poetry. So, okay, literary elements and poetic devices used for the analysis of poems. Okay, so the general objective is to identify, let's be clear what we need to do today. So to identify important literary elements, well, in this case more, let's go to the poetic devices to analyze poems. And the specific objective is to analyze literary elements and poetic devices used in poetry. So yes, like in the first topic, Professor Orlando's topic, we're gonna see some terms, identify them, because we will use them on the second topic on Wednesday. So this is very important. I know there are so many concepts, but I'm going to use the most common ones. This is very vast. Poetry, wow. The content is very broad. Okay, let's continue. Okay, here, I don't know how this happened, this line over here. Okay, says more or less the content of the presentation today. Okay, we have definitions, we have classification, literary elements that we're trying to skip, to go to the poetic devices. Because you see, we're going to talk about metrical patterns, prosody, the rhyme, alliteration, metaphor, simile, etc., etc. And okay, this is the activity that we started in Menti, and the questions that you have in Padlet. And I give you one example here of a poem. Look, just 2 stanzas here, this poem, 2 stanzas. I like this one. Maybe we will go over it in the second topic. This is by Emily Dickinson, by the way. And I really like her very much, her poetry. Okay. So, so what is poetry? What is poetry? Here I have some definitions that I found. Okay, I would like you to participate, to help me. If you could read very quickly, yes. Some of you to activate ourselves. If you could help me reading some of the definitions that I found. Please.
Literary work in which special intensity is given to the expression of feelings and ideas by the use of distinctive style and rhythms, poems collectively or as a genre of literature. Oxford Dictionaries.
Good, great.
Can I continue?
If you want to give it the chance to another.
Literature that evokes a concentrated imaginative awareness of experience or a specific emotional response through language chosen and arranged for its meaning, sound, and rhythm. Howard Nemerov, Britannica.com. Language of imagination expressed in verse. Writing that formulates a concentrated imaginative awareness of experience in language chosen and arranged to create a specific emotional response through meaning, sound, and rhythm. Merriam-Webster. Poetry is a form of writing vital to culture, art, and life. Poets.org.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you so much, Professor Sandra. And I also found this, I mean, what other authors or writers or poets, what they say about poetry. I like another participant to continue, because we have famous poets, William Wordsworth, Dylan Thomas, Emily Dickinson, one of my favorites. Yes.
Okay. The spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. It takes its origin from emotion recollected in tranquility. William Wordsworth. Poetry is what a poem makes you laugh, cry, pickle, be silent, makes your toenails twinkle, makes you want to do this or that or nothing, makes you know that you are alone in the unknown world. that your bliss and suffering is forever shared and forever all your own. Dylan Thomas. If I read a book and it makes my whole body so cold, no fire ever can warm me, I know that it's poetry. If I feel physically as if the top of my head were taken off, I know that is poetry. These are the only way I know it. Is there any other way? Emily Dickinson.
Great, thank you. I have another slide related to authors, another participant. Or several participants. We have Robert Frost, Salvatore. I found him and I like him. Edgar Allan Poe. I'm sure that all of you know Edgar Allan Poe. Other new names for me, but I like what they said.
Yeah, can I try it?
Yes, Bebita.
Yeah. Poetry is when an emotion has found its thought and the thought has found words. And that's why Robert Frost. Poetry is the revelation of a feeling that the poet believes to be interior and personal, which the reader recognizes as his own. That's Salvatore Quasimodo. I would define in brief the poetry of words as the rhythmical creation of beauty. Its sole arbiter is taste. With the intellectual or with the conscience, is that the word? Oh, the conscience. My goodness. With the intellectual or with, I lost myself again. With the conscience, it has
collateral, huh?
It has only collateral relations. Unless incidentally, it has no concern whether either with duty or with truth. That's Edgar Allan Poe. I don't know if anybody else wants to read. Should I continue? Poetry is a deal of joy and pain and wonder with the dash of the dictionary. And that is, how do you say that? Khalil Gibran?
Khalil, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And poetry is all that is worth remembering in life. And that's William Hazlitt.
Beautiful, yes, beautiful comments or definitions by great poets. And something that you said there, yes, when we read a poem by any author, it's something that as it says there, Salvatore, is the revelation of a feeling that the poet believes to be interior, something that the poet creates that felt and personal, which the reader recognizes as his own. And it's true. When you read something that you like, a poem that you like, you take it as your own. That is yours. It's yours. You feel it. So it becomes yours. So I like that one. And the last, poetry is all that is worth remembering in life. Definitely. In such a narrow space.
Okay.
Yes?
Poetry is literature in verse form, controlled arrangements of lines and stanzas. Poems use concise musical and emotional charged language to express multiple layers of meaning. The word poetry is derived from the Greek poesis, meaning a making or creating. It is a form of art in which language is used.
Thank you. But I don't know, Karen? That you, the one participating?
Yes, Karen, yes.
Thank you for your participation. Okay, so now after reading, thinking, digesting these wonderful words about poetry and famous poets, okay, let's You can think of Shakespeare plays, for example. In Shakespeare plays, there are good example. Okay, then we have narrative poetry. More specifically, we have a ballad, we have a magical tale, we have the epic. Okay, in ballad, some characteristics, very brief characteristics. It's a very short story, folk product, things that have been passed from generation to generation orally, about simple, regular, common people. It has a simple plot and language. We may have a dialogue. The metrical tale is also a short story in verse. There are more descriptions. The poet expresses attitudes and opinions. And then the epic. I like this one, epic. It's extremely long. Extremely long. This poem is long. Also tells a story. This poem tells a story. And about national heroes. We have heroes here in this type of poems. Elevated tone, lofty style, highly poetic language. Highly poetic language. We see some examples. Here we have Beowulf. I don't know if you are familiarized with this one. This very old epic poem, anonymous. It is believed that maybe a monk created this one. If you have a chance to read this poem, and I believe the Raven, for example, very famous. Yes, you can feel the emotion of the speaker there. There are other examples that I found. Okay, for ballad and metrical tale. Let's see what else. Narrative poetry in epic poem. Okay, here what I mentioned before, a very important one from Old English poetry. We have Beowulf. Okay, it's a long poem of, imagine, 3,882 lines or verses. Where we find alliterations, repetition of initial consonant sounds along the lines. So this tells the story of a hero who saves some people from a specific place, fights against monsters. In fact, I'm sure that maybe you'll watch some movies related to Beowulf. There's one in the year 2007. There's a movie, animated movie, 2007, called Beowulf. You have a chance to find it and watch it. Highly recommend it. And there's another movie, The 13th Warrior with Antonio Banderas, also based on this poem. No, there are many options, many movies that you can find regarding this epic poem. Yeah. Okay. Then narrative poetry. Another example that I mentioned, we have the Odyssey. You see, maybe if you remember, maybe in high school, reading something about the Odyssey, the Iliad. Okay, so here's just a little part of the Odyssey. So you see the way it is written is a poem talking about this this hero, Odyssey. Then we move to the second category, lyric poem. Okay, lyric poem is like a song. So here you have feelings and emotions. We have reflective lyric, that is emotional response through recall reflection, usually calm. We have elegy, expresses grief, usually dignified, formal language and structure. So I show you, I mentioned the Annabelle Lee, for example. It could be an elegy because besides narrating a story, is also expressing his grief for the loss of his love, his woman. Ode any sustained poem of exalted themes such as immortality or a hero's victory, often commemorating some important events. Long, elaborate, unified formal language, irregular structure, long, etc., okay? Ode, I will give you some examples. A famous one, ode on a Grecian or. And then the sonnet. Maybe you know more about the sonnets, because in sonnets we can mention Shakespeare. Yes. It's a 14-line poem. It's just one stanza of 14-line poems that are arranged in, in 3 quatrains. I'll speak about these terms later on. 3 quatrains and a couplet, rhyming. This is a rhyming scheme for the whole poem, the Shakespearean one, the sonnet. And there's another type that is called Italian or Petrarchan sonnet. There are 2 types of sonnets. One is Italian and the other is the Shakespearean. And here's also the rhyming scheme for the Petrarchan. Okay, but we'll see that in detail in a few minutes. And here's some examples of lyric poetry that I found. For example, this one that I show you at the beginning, Emily Dickinson. I'm Nobody, Who Are You? It's just, you see here, 2 stanzas. Only 2 stanzas or paragraphs, what we call paragraphs in prose. Well, here is called stanza. And we're going to reflect. That's why it says it's reflective. In the second topic, we will reflect on some poems. And the Colorado Trail is also an elegy in this case, because in the poem, somebody died. So Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night, another famous poem by Dylan Thomas. It's longer, but I just I'll show you just a couple of stanzas, because it's very long. Also an elegy, because it refers to death. When we all are reaching that point in our lives. At a certain point, we are going to die. Yeah, so maybe, okay, this is something that talks about that. And when you lose someone, Ode on a Grecian Urn by John Keats, another famous one. Yes, only, okay, just a part to show you here. That is a perfect example of an ode. And then for the sonnet, sonnet 73 that we are going to analyze here. And to see here is just one stanza, but it's distributed this way of 4, the first 4, then the second part is also 4 more, and the third part 4 more, and then it ends with 2. So in total here we have 14 lines. That's why it's a sonnet. And the rhyming scheme is here. Rhyme scheme it has to do with the similarity of sounds at the end of each line. If we have similar sounds, then we use the same letter. For example, the first line is one sound, okay, that we give the A. If we find another sound on another line, then we say that is also A, and so on. Okay, that will be called rhyming scheme. So this is the way. Then dramatic poetry. In dramatic poetry, as I said before, you see the picture is on stage, it's drama, usually plays, Shakespeare plays, for example. So it says, also known as dramatic verse or verse drama. You know, the word verse could be a line in poetry, but could also be the stanza or the poem itself. So it is a written work that both tells a story and connects the reader to an audience. That's why it's on stage, through emotion or behavior. It features poems to be performed on stage, as I said, yes. So we have dramatic narrative, we have dramatic monologue, we have soliloquy. Okay, in dramatic, it tells a story by the person involved. And dramatic monologue, one is performing or speaking in front of an audience, speaking to the other characters on stage. So they listen and the characters speaks. And the soliloquy is one character on stage speaking alone to himself, inner thoughts, let's say, speaking to himself. And the audience just paying attention and listening to what the character says. So usually it's just alone there on stage. Some examples, as I mentioned before, Shakespeare. We have many examples in the plays of Shakespeare. This famous one, Romeo and Juliet. Okay, there are many parts in the different acts of the play that we have sonnets, we have poetic devices, and this is just a little part. It says, Act 2, Scene 2, "O Romeo, Romeo, where art thou, Romeo? Deny thy father and refuse thy name, or if thou will not be but sworn by love, and I'll no longer be your Capulet." Okay, so here in this soliloquy, the person is alone, just talking to herself. Okay, in this case, the girl talking to herself. But there are other acts or parts of the play where other characters also speak by themselves, alone. They're alone, like Romeo, for example. We also have another play, Hamlet, by William Shakespeare. It's another example of dramatic poetry. My Last Duchess by Robert Browning, the dramatic monologue. Dramatic. There in the poem, the speaker is talking to somebody in the castle, explaining, showing a picture of the last duchess who died, because the speaker wants a new duchess. So it's explaining or showing this big picture of the last duchess, and so it's speaking to somebody else there. That's why it's a dramatic monologue. And then literary elements. Professor Orlando was explaining many concepts that we use for the analysis of short stories, of poems, fables, novels, even drama in plays. So we use them all the time. So it's important that we know them and apply them, or use them in order to discuss or analyze specific works. So as I said here, I'm going to be very brief, okay, in this case, to go to the poetic devices. But theme, this is very important, because theme is, I'm going to ask about it in the poems that we're going to analyze in the second topic. So theme is the main concept that we find in any literary work. This is a central idea. Okay, and this is stated in literature, is stated as a sentence, so or statement. And usually, the theme, when we ask our students, what is the theme of specific work, literary work, specific novel or short story? Okay, that is the way that we have to state it. We identify a main concept, and then we specify something that we easily find in daily life. For example, love. This is a recurrent concept in many stories or in poetry. That love is the greatest gift that human beings can have, even though it brings bittersweet moments sometimes. Okay. Definitely, yes, that love is a great gift that we all experience or experience. But we know that not everything is beautiful. So we have good and bad moments when we love. That's part of our life. So here, the theme is stated as a complete idea, using a concept. Okay, love. So for poetry, any poem that we read, try to find what is the main theme of that work, and try to have an idea that comes from you, and you state it as a sentence with subject, verb, and predicate. and it's a generalization of life. Trying to avoid, of course, saying that things happen 100% of the times, because we know that we have exceptions in life. And after this, we apply it to the analysis of the story or of the poem. It's something that is about life itself, but it's also present in the story. Then symbol, okay, symbol is something that has a real existing story, or in a poem, or in a play, but has a significance above and beyond itself. It could be an object, a person, a situation, or an action, or some other item that has a literal meaning in literary word, but suggests or represents other meanings as well. Okay, a symbol has a literal meaning, okay, but that symbol could have an extra meaning, a meaning that goes beyond. For example, there says trees, okay? A tree is a tree. That's a literal meaning. But maybe the poet or maybe the writer used this tree or trees for a specific purpose, have a double meaning. Yes, it's a tree, but that tree, its meaning goes beyond, represents life in the story, or in the poem. Life means life in the poem. And like what Professor Orlando said with he was like white elephants. The white elephants, they were symbolic. They were elephants, literally will be the elephants, yes, but that meaning went beyond, represented maybe the pregnant girl, or a hard situation taking place at that moment, that difficult decision that the girl had to make at the end. So water, okay, water's water, liquid, yes, but depending on the story, depending on the poem, that water could mean something else, something deeper. Water could mean purification in that work, purification. Even water could be, it depends. Even water could mean death. In a flood, for example, that water, that is purification, means something else, death, because people die in floods. If you watch the news with the climate change, everything has been altered. So people die because of water, the rain, heavy rain, flooding, people drowning. So that depends. The meanings could change depending on the topic. But here, water, mainly purification. Rebirth could also be, yeah, rebirth, purification, rebirth. It's very symbolic. As a ritual in religion, for example, when in the Catholic Church, yeah, this ritual of pouring water is to purify. It's rebirth. The rain, it's also purification. As I said before, water could be also mean death. Snow, death. Yeah. The cold, yes, could kill you. So not only snow, as literal, yeah, the beautiful, the white snow, yes, it could also mean death. Imagery, another concept that we're also using in poetry. Okay, I will repeat it then when I go to the devices. Imagery, okay, it refers to the use of figurative language to evoke a sensory experience of creative picture or create a picture with words for a reader. Yes, imagery. Here we use our senses. The poets use imagery to make us imagine. Once we imagine things, yes, we imagine things, we are using the imagery. Okay, it could be visual, it could be auditory, you could smell, depending on the words chosen, different senses are awakened. So by utilizing effective descriptive language and figures of speech, writers appeal to a reader's senses of sight, taste, smell, touch, and sound, as well as internal emotion and feelings. Yes, because when you imagine things, it's like when we compare, let's say, reading a book, watching a movie of the same story. Okay, it's never the same, because in the book, yeah, you have mental picture, you imagine everything, but in the movie you have everything there. nothing to imagine. So imagery is really important for the poets, for the writers, to make us, to transport us to the story. And here's some examples as the autumn leaves are a blanket on the ground. Wow. Look, the autumn leaves are a blanket. Imagine a blanket. As soon as you see the word blanket, you imagine everything. Yeah, the autumn leaves, those leaves, they're similar to a blanket on the ground. Her lips tasted as sweet as sugar. So when you just read the word sugar, or when somebody mentions lemon, for example, you immediately you feel it, you taste it. So the words have a power. Yeah, his words felt like a dagger in my heart. Oh, imagine that. His words, very strong words, but very painful words, so hard. So his words felt like a dagger in my heart, almost killing you. And my head is pounding like a drum. So you imagine the word, you see the word drum? So you imagine my head is pounding like a drum. So maybe a headache, that could be maybe a headache, but expressed poetically. Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it beautiful? Okay. More literary elements. Irony. Yes, Professor Randall mentioned the ironies. Yes, life is ironic. Life itself is ironic. Every day we experience ironic situations, things that are not fair. So there is a contrast of some sort. Okay, depending on the situation, depending on the experience in a poem or in a short story. Okay, things that we as readers consider inappropriate, that shouldn't happen. Well, we say, oh, but this is ironic. So this literary device, we have contradictory statements or situations that reveal a reality that's different from what appears to be true. Okay, when we say verbal irony, oh, verbal irony is something that is said. We need a dialogue in that work of literature in order to identify verbal ironies. We also have dramatic. Verbal is meaning the opposite, to say something meaning the opposite. And we as readers, when we read that, we say, okay, because we know the story, we say, well, what he said wasn't true. What he said wasn't true. If you remember The Castle of Amontillado, just a short story, very famous short story, The Castle of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe, has several examples of verbal irony because there are dialogues there. Montresor versus Fortunato there, that we say immediately as readers, oh, but this is not true. What he said is not true. So then we say that is a verbal irony. Okay, here I have an example. It says, okay, dramatic irony, that's another type of irony. In the dramatic, we, as readers, know something that the characters don't know. Because the narrator, the one who tells the story, give us enough details to know that what is going to happen later on, that the other characters, they don't have any clue. So that then we say that is dramatic. Oh, this happened here. This happened to this character, but he never knew that this was coming. But we knew that because of the information given by the author. We also have the ironies of situation. Depending on the situation, we say appearance versus reality, expectation and fulfillment, or what is and what seems to be appropriate, things that happen in the story or in the poem, but we consider that shouldn't happen. Something else should happen instead. So this is something that really helps us develop our analysis capacity. Ironies, I really love ironies, and it's also useful for the analysis of poems. Yes, it's also seen there. Okay. Just short question. Is okay so far? Are you following me? Let me know that you are there.
So far, so good.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes,
Any
okay.
other? Good. Good. Okay, then. Now going to poetic devices or the elements that we use for poetry. Okay, here I have like the structure of the poems. Okay, prosody that studies the principle of verse structure. Okay, here I give you some definitions. and I also give you some examples, because it's really good to, by the example, we can have a better view, better understanding of the concept. So, okay, meter is a pattern of stressed or accented sounds. Stress is like if you had a stress mark there, that is the stress. In a word, different syllables, there's one part that is stressed, okay, the accented. So a pattern of stress accented sounds in a line, okay, that's meter. Because we will have a stress and unstressed, but that pattern, yes, that's part, that pattern is what we call meter. And of course, that sequence or of that combination of stress, unstress, or the other way, unstress, stress, okay, that creates somehow the rhythm in a poem. Then we have foot, the foot, okay, the foot, the smallest unit of that combination of stress and stress. That is a foot, okay, the basic unit of measurement in a line of poetry. It could be 2 or 3 syllables, one of which is stress. One of which is stress. So that basic unit is what we call foot. If we have a repetition, of that unit several times along the line, then we say in metrical feet that has a name. That has a name depending on the repetition or the the pattern of stress on stress or the other way. Then we have metrical feet and metrical lines. We'll go there. Okay, so as it says, metrical feet. Well, metrical feet is the most common feet in English poetry. Okay, and the maybe the one that you have heard a lot is this particular one that says I am or iambic. In Shakespeare, in previous slides, there was this word I am, pentameter. Sonnets, the sonnet, Shakespearean sonnets, they use this metrical fit, iambic pentameter, pentameter meaning the lines. Yes, pentameter is here, the lines. Okay, and I am, okay, is that pattern of starting with unstressed syllable followed by one stressed. That unit, okay, that unit of unstressed syllable followed by one stressed is the I am or iambic. For example, here we have, look, it's in bold, the word's in bold, meaning that is the stress. There you have the stress, and that stress will create a rhythm. So my heart is like a singing bird. My heart is like a singing bird. It's like music, yeah? My heart is like, you can repeat it over there, yeah, to yourself, yeah. My heart is like a singing bird. So that pattern, you see, we have the first one that says on stress, my is on stress, and heart is stress. So this unit, small unit, that foot, okay, my heart is repeated several times. Is like is another. A sing is another. In, but is another. So we have repeated the same pattern 1, 2, 3, 4 times. 4 times we have it. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. This is a line in a poem by Cristina Rossetti. Okay, my heart is like a singing bird. And it says tetrameter. Here in metrical lines. I'm going to show you that in a few seconds. Okay, tetrameter because this sequence is repeated 4 times. That's why tetra is 4. So tetra is 4. So it's I am because of the pattern of unstressed stress. And it's repeated 4 times. That's why it's called. And that is the most common metrical feet, as I said before, in Shakespeare's sonnets. Then there are other types of metrical feet. We have the opposite of I am is the trochee. The opposite of I am is the trochee. If you see, in the I am, it started with the one on stress. In the trochee is the opposite. One stress and the other unstressed. Okay, and here I have an example. Look the difference, okay? We compare the two. We were very tired. We were very merry. So that is like music. Yeah, it's rhythm. So that structure creates the rhythm. So here we have how many times the same unit? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. If we go to the metrical lines here, if it's 6 times, that is hexameter, because hexa is for 6, number 6. So in the metrical lines, okay, the line consists of 1 or more feet, and it's named for the number of feet in it. So these names are monometer, dimeter, that is 2, D is 2, trimeter is 3, tetrameter is 4, pentameter is 5, hexameter 6, heptameter 7, and octameter 8. Okay, so we are other here, the anapaes, the dactyl, the spongy, the period that is not considered, says legitimate fit in English, and there are, well, I don't have an example for that one since it's not considered legitimate, but we have the other options that we can find in other poems. Since, okay, 11:26, I need to go faster, okay? Don't worry, because I know that this is not that easy. It takes time to digest. So I'm going to share all this information. So no problem, no problem. Or you can even have screen captures, yes, because we are going to apply that in the activity of the afternoon. That is asynchronous. Any questions so far about prosody, about metrical feet and metrical lines? So far, so good. Please tell me. At least one voice saying yes.
So far, so good.
Oh, great! Thank you. Yes. Yeah. We have elements of poetry. Here we have some concepts that we can detect. Well, when we read a poem, oh, this is a beautiful metaphor. Oh no, this is a simile. Or we can say, this poem has only 2 stanzas. So we use the terms to analyze the poems. So stanza, as I said before, is what we call a paragraph. In prose, in stories, it's a paragraph. But here in poetry, it's called stanza. Okay, stanza. And a poem could have 1 stanza, we have 2 stanzas, or 3, or 4, etc., etc. Depending on the number of stanzas, we give them a name, and that's here in types. In types. So briefly, a unit of lines grouped together. Okay, a group of lines grouped together. That is, yes, that is a paragraph or stanza. Similar to a paragraph, consists of 2 or more lines of poetry that together form one of the divisions of a poem. Stanzas are usually at the same length and follow the same pattern of meter and rhyme.
Hey guys, you finished? I'm leaving.
Who? Sorry. Okay. Yeah, going back. Yes, so the stanzas are usually of the same length, but it could vary. It could vary depending on the poet, the style of writing. I don't know, changes. So the types, we have couplet. If the stanza is just 2 lines, we call it couplet. You say 2 lines or you say couplet. Okay, and usually they rhyme or not. Tercet is that the paragraph or the stanza has 3 lines. Quatrain, that the stanza has 4 lines. Maybe a poem with 4 stanzas, and all the 4 stanzas, they have 4 lines. So with this poem, then we call it a quatrain. A cinquain, 5 lines. Sestet, 6 lines. Septet, 7 lines. Octave, and so on. Okay, so that regarding types, those are the names we can give them. And then with rhyme, what is rhyme? Oh, okay. What happened? Okay. Yeah, rhyme. In rhyme, So rhyme is a repetition of the same or similar sounds, usually in stressed syllables at the end of lines, mostly at the end. Okay, because we could also have along the line, within, in the middle, yeah, we could also have rhyming. But at the end, usually at the end, we expect with this type of poetry, although there are other types, free verse, blank verse, etc. But in this type of, let's say, the poems that rhyme, okay, we will find lines that they will have similar sounds at the end. Okay, similar sounds could be consonant, could be vowels, but there are similarities, or they're or the same, or repetition of the same word. Well, that is rhyme. So the repetition of the same or similar sounds, usually in stress levels at the end of lines, but sometimes within a line, as I said, in the middle. You can find it in the middle of a line. For example, at the end of lines, we have love, dove, dove, love, dove, tender, slender. So they are similar. Okay, one line ending with love and the other line that continues maybe ends with dove, that creates rhyme. The same for tender and slender. And in a stanza, maybe you could have 4 lines, yes, a quatrain. And the first line rhymes with the third, and the second rhymes with the fourth. Or maybe the first rhymes with the second, and then the third rhymes with the fourth. So it varies, but when we have similar sounds at the end, immediately we say that we have rhyming words in that stanza or poem. Here's an example, okay, of let's say an internal rhyme in this case, because it's not at the end of a line, it's in the middle. Okay, we have dawn and we have sun. There are strange things done in the midnight sun. There are strange things done in the midnight sun. So we have dawn, sun, in the vowels. They're similar in the vowels. So by the men who moil for gold. In gold, yes, we could say also the vowel. Sun, gold, maybe similar. Near. So before going to rhythm, I forgot to put that one, but when another term that we use for the analysis is rhyming scheme. Rhyming scheme. In rhyming scheme is what I just did, that when you try to find the similar sounds at the end of the lines, okay, you give a letter of the alphabet for the similar sounds. Okay, if the first line at the end, let's say the third line also similar, we say that they have the same letter A. If the second with the 4 they are similar, then we say that is B. So that is rhyme scheme. We use the letters of the alphabet to give the letter for specific similar sounds. I'll give you an example after a few minutes here. Okay, so rhythm. Now going to rhythm. In rhythm, okay, I mentioned it too. Okay, the pattern of beats or stresses in a poem. It's like the reading is like what creates the music. The pattern of the stresses, stress on stress or on stress stress. Well, that repetition creates a rhythm. So poets use patterns of stress and unstress syllables to create a regular rhythm. Yes, what I just said. Here's a clear example taken by Edgar Allan Poe. Here we have in this stanza, okay, it's in bold, the words in bold, okay, you'll see, okay, she was a child and I was a child in this kingdom by the sea. But we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabelle Lee. So definitely there's rhythm there because of that sequence of stress on stress. And alliteration. Okay, in alliteration, you have a repetition of consonant sounds, just consonant sounds. Alliteration is like a subdivision of consonants, by the way. Okay, so repetition of consonant sounds, especially at the beginning of words. At the beginning of words. So we have this tongue twister, Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. Okay, this is very useful for kids. in elementary school using tongue twisters. But here we have alliteration. You see the P mentioned several times here on in the line. Well, that is alliteration, repeated consonant sounds. And also one taken from The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. We have, okay, alliteration here. You see the end that he used several times with different words. So while I noted nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gentle rapping at my chamber door. So here, this verse here, okay, we see that noted, nearly, and napping. That's a perfect example of alliteration. So as you see, this might tell you, wow, you need to be like a dictionary. You need a dictionary in order to find words that will create this effect. So alliteration. Next slide. Then, 11:36. Okay, we right on time. Elements of poetry, then we have masculine ending. What is a masculine ending in a poem? Okay, when there's a stress at the end of the line. The line ends with a stress, we call it masculine ending. If the line ends with an extra unstressed syllable, then we say that is a feminine ending. Okay, technical words. Yes, a line ending with a stress, masculine. If the line ends with an extra syllable that is unstressed, then we call that a feminine ending. We'll see if we can find examples in some poems. Then another cesura. Cesura is a pause indicated by this slight pause within the line and does not affect the metrical count. So that doesn't interfere with the counting of the metrical lines. Yes. And so example, we have awake my St. John, and here you see the cesura. It means that there you have a pause. Awake my St. John, leave all meaner things to low ambition and the pride of kings. Something like that, okay. But that is indicating you when you recited, you should have a pause there. And stop line, it concludes with a distinct syntactical pause. And stop line, it means, in other words, that the line, the idea was completed with at the end, period. The whole idea was completed in that line. So we say end stop line. That's why the word end stop line. So because sometimes in poems, the idea is not finished and continues in the second line. So then that's not stop line, end stop line. But if it's finished, concluded with a period, with that pause at that period, then we say, oh, that is an end stop line. Run on line is the opposite. Okay, the idea hasn't been finished. Run on line means enjambment is the same. So the poet didn't finish the idea there in that line, so continues on the second. So it says, it has its sense carry over into the next line without syntactical pause. Without syntactical pause. Here we have one in cesura, the examples. Okay, here it says, away my St. John, leave all meaner things. Well, here it's not finished. The idea is not finished. It continues on the second line. So that is run on line. Here I have another example by Alexander Pope. Okay, you see that here in the first line, the first verse here is not finished. It continues. Something is missing. So it continues on the second line and so on. Run, that's run on line. It doesn't stop. That's why the word run on. Run on line, it doesn't stop. It continues on the second. Okay, then we have other elements of poetry. We have then the rhyme of the rhyming words. Okay, here, depending on the rhyming words in every stanza, okay, we can then give different names. Okay, here it's good to check the examples. It's good because this takes time. You need to go over this several times in order to, let's say, get them, understand them, master them. Sorry. So perfect or exact rhyme. The word says it. Perfect. It's perfect. The ending of these lines that they rhyme. Okay, it's perfect. So it says that differing consonant sounds are followed by identical stress sounds. Okay, in this case, well, it's just one syllable. Okay, but in the third example, okay, we have more than one syllable, two syllable. Says differing consonant sounds are followed by identical stress sounds. Okay, here the word sound, not the written part. Okay, not in the writing, it's in the sound. So buffer, rougher, buffer, rougher. Okay, differing consonant sounds. Here you see that buffer would be, rougher is with R. So differing consonant sounds are followed by identical stress sounds. So you see the stress on the first syllable, buffer, rougher. No buffer, no rougher, is buffer. So that's the definition. That's why it's called perfect rhyme. So we have, okay, foe, toe, meet, fleet, fix, sticks. So sounds, similar sounds, no writing, similar sounds. That is a perfect sound. So, okay, this means that, let's assume that we have a line that ends with foe and we have another line in the stanza that ends with toe, okay? That's why I put them like this, one below the other. Half rhyme or off rhyme, half rhyme, half, the word half. Important to see the name, the meaning of the name. So half rhyme, just the part rhymes. Eh? Only the final consonant sounds of the words are identical. Only the final consonant sounds of the words are identical. The stress vowel sounds as well as the initial consonant sounds, if any, differ. For example, soul and oil. If you see here soul and oil, soul, oil, it says only the final consonant sounds of the words are identical. You see the L consonant sound, the same for soul and for oil. That's why it's half rhyme. And in mirth and forth, you see the TH, mirth or RTH. Yes, they are the same sounds. And then trolley and bolly, trolley, bolly, trolley, bolly. So here the consonant sounds of words are identical. Trolley, bolly, the L for li, bolly, okay. And the stress vowel sounds as well as the initial consonant sounds, if any, they differ. So we have two syllables there in that example. So it just half rhyme. They don't rhyme completely. Then we have I rhyme. The word says I, just to the eye. If you look at it, you might think that, oh, they are the same. The sound will be the same. No, that's why it's just I rhyme. Okay, so the sounds do not in fact rhyme, but the words look as though they would rhyme. They would, but that's not the case because we have cough and we have bow. Bow. Well, I think yes. Okay, but they are not the same. They don't rhyme. It's just I. To the eye, they look like if they were rhyming. And then masculine rhyme, it doesn't have to do with gender. Okay, masculine rhyme is just that, okay, the final syllables are stressed and after the differing initial consonant sounds are identical in sound. So just look at the examples. You see that they are the same. Okay, the final syllables are stressed, like in support and retort. Final syllables, because in star is just one syllable. Okay, but they are the same at the end. So you see stark and mark, the same. And after the differing initial consonant sounds are identical in sound. So here with support and retort, the first one is with S, support, and the other is re, so totally different. So it's at the end, okay, the stress syllable that they are the same. That's why it's masculine. At the end, it's masculine. I think I also repeated something similar to masculine rhyme at the beginning. The previous slide. Let's see if I can show you that. in a few seconds, but let's continue. Let's finish here. The feminine is the opposite then. It says stress rhyming syllables are followed by identical stress syllables. Stress rhyming syllables, stress rhyming syllables, stress rhyming syllables. Okay, look at the examples. Stress rhyming syllables are followed by identical unstressed. So revival, arrival, revival says stress rhyming syllables. We see here, this combination here, stress rhyming syllables are followed by identical unstressed. Revival. So vol is not stress, it's unstressed. So, and they are the same. So I-vol, the same. So stress rhyming syllables, okay, because in revival we have 3 syllables. 3 syllables, revive. In arrival, arrive. So it says stress rhyming syllables, so the same sound, are followed by identical unstressed syllables. So the vowel sound here is the same in this case. Not the consonant sound, but yes, the vowel. So stress rhyming syllables are followed by identical unstressed syllables. So we have this other case called triple rhyme. Okay, we have machinery, scenery, tenderly, and slenderly. Tenderly. You see that 10 is the stress syllable, followed by 2 unstressed in this case. 2 unstressed instead of just 1 with the previous example. And slenderly, and they basically the same. So stress, tend, slend, and after the stress, then we have identical unstressed syllables. So dirly, dirly, and that's called triple rhyme in this case. Then end rhyme, the rhyming words occur at the ends of the lines. If it's at the end, the rhyming, it's called end rhyme. Internal rhyme, if the rhyming is in the, we have a word in the middle and with the last word, then we say that the rhyming is internal. For example, we have each narrow cell in which we dwell. You see cell is in the middle of the line and dwell at the end. So they are rhyming, cell, dwell. So that's why it's called internal rhyme. Assonance, it has to do with the vowels. Consonants, it has to do with consonants. So assonance says that is the repetition in words of proximity, that they are close in the line. The repetition in words of proximity of identical vowel sounds preceded and followed by differing consonant sounds. So here we have the example of first the ones that rhyme. Tie and hide, they rhyme. But in the case of assonance, look, we have tied with mine. Tied with mine. So it's not the consonants. It's just the vowels that are similar. That's why it says assonantal. No consonants, but the vowels. And in consonants, and by the way, and this could happen even in the line, not only at the end of the lines. This one by the Raven, by Edgar Allan Poe, in the Raven. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I ponder, weak and weary. So here we have vowels that are similar, because dreary is with D, yeah. So dreary, weary. So it's in the vowel. The similarities in the vowels. In consonants, we have repetition of identical consonants, sounds, and different vowel sounds in words of proximity. So we have, you see, fail and feel. So the similarity is not in the vowels, it's in the consonants. That's why it's consonants. We have here the F at the beginning and the L. So they share that similarity. In rough and roof, and Peter and patter. But in the case of fail and peel, it's just at the end, just at the end. Just at the end, the L is the similar sound. And that's called consonant because it has to do with the consonants. And I think this is the last one. Let me see. Oh, no. No. Okay, it's 11:49. Yeah, okay. Other concepts Other concepts for the analysis, these are poetic devices, interesting ones. Okay, when onomatopoeia, okay, onomatopoeia is when we're reading a poem and the writer, the poet uses words that those words represent a sound, that is called onomatopoeia. Such as hiss, buzz, the bees, the sound that they make, crash, bang, boom, zip, etc., etc. Those are onomatopoeias. Okay, the word is the sound. Here is an example by Emily Dickinson. I heard a fly buzz when I died. I heard a fly buzz. So buzz is a word, but it's also a sound, and that is called onomatopoeia. Using words that imitate sounds. Imagery that I mentioned with the literary concepts, okay, is representation of the five senses: sight, taste, sound, and smell. It creates mental images about a poet's subject. Yes, it wakens up your imagination when you read a line, when you read a poem, and the poet uses carefully words that suggest sight or taste. Well, that is imagery because you use your imagination. Hyperbole, just the word hyperbole is similar to exaggeration. When you read a line, when you read a poem, and it's like something that you can't believe, that doesn't exist, that doesn't happen like that. Well, that is an exaggeration. So that figure of speech, a literary device that creates heightened effect through deliberate exaggeration. Hyperbole is often used for serious, comic, or ironic effects. It's also a hyperbole in a short story. Yes, you could have hyperboles. You can find hyperboles in fables too, and also in poetry. Example says, she loves him more than life itself. Imagine this poetic line. She loves him more than life itself. Imagine, is that possible? So that's an exaggeration. She's more beautiful than the moon and stars. She's more beautiful. Imagine this comparison of this woman to this moon and stars. So that is exaggerated. So that is hyperbole. An allusion. An allusion is a reference, typically brief, an allusion to a person, place, thing, event, or other literary work which the reader is presumably familiar. Okay, maybe in a specific poem, the author mentions something that it was used before in another work. Okay, usually we have writers or have allusions related to the Bible. When they refer to the garden means Eden, creation. The cross means Christ, crucifixion. So it's also symbolic. Yeah, this allusion is also symbolic. So when you talk about the garden, you're referring maybe to the Garden of Eden, the garden of good and evil, and creation. So that is an allusion, something that was mentioned in that poem that was used before, that somebody invented or mentioned before, and then this author repeated or uses as a reference. Here I also have Romeo and Juliet. We'll have no Cupid, this god mythology, okay, representing love. Okay, you're a lover, borrows Cupid's wings. So there's an allusion to this god. And let's see what else I have here. I think, yeah, okay. And finally, this simile and metaphor. These are very common. I'm sure that you heard this word. I saw that word in the brainstorm. Yes, somebody put that word metaphor. Well, metaphor is a comparison. Okay, but it's trait comparison. One thing is the same as the other. It's the same. They're same. In simile is another comparison, but you use the words as or like. Okay, as it says there. Both are comparisons. In fact, I think I have one that I created one. Okay, so okay, he is as strong as an ox. So here, person is being compared to this animal having the same force. So he's as strong as an ox, or he's like an ox, like an ox, like using the word like. So here we are comparing, but using these words, these specific words. That is a simile. And the metaphor is a comparison between two things, literally. One is the other thing. So she's an old flame. She's an old flame. So it means that she is the flame. They are the same. She's an old flame. Time is money. When we say that expression, time is money. So it means that time is the same as money. So one thing is literally something else. So time is money. Life is a roller coaster. So life is like that. Is the roller coaster. It's like with speed, in a rush, good and bad experiences, like in a roller coaster. Anything can happen. So life is a roller coaster. And personification, well, persona, person, personification. But this is for objects. It says it's a particular type of metaphor where a non-human thing or idea is ascribed to human qualities or abilities. So it means that the object is like a person, behaves like a person. And in this example, the moon was shining sulkily because she thought like a person, because she thought. The moon doesn't think. So that's why there's personification here. So the moon was shining sulkily because she thought the sun had got no business to be there after the day was done. It's very rude of him, meaning the sun. Him is the sun, as a man. The moon female and the sun masculine. So acting as persons, as people. So it's very rude of him. She said, the moon speaking, she said to come and spoil the fun. And here we see a clear example of personification. And with, for example, with children's poetry, you can have many examples of personification. In fact, I'm going to share a link that you can have all these terms with many examples. I use it a lot, and others that I don't have time to explain here because there are so many. But that could help you if you have any doubt, more doubts. You can go there, and we'll have more examples from stories, from poems, just sentences, giving that specific explanation, etc., etc. So I will share that link. So very useful. And yeah, 11:57 now. Thanks for your attention and participation. And look, I remember that I mentioned at the beginning that those two positive messages, one that said that we are beginners. You remember at the beginning when I started my presentation, I show you two positive messages. Yes or no? You remember?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Are you okay after this long list of terms?
Everything okay?
Okay. Well, yeah. At the beginning, yes, I consider myself beginner also, because we never stop learning. We never stop learning. To be honest, I'm starting with this. I discovered, in the process of preparing this PowerPoint for you today, has helped me a lot. I've been teaching, well, this is something that we don't teach it that much because there's no time in the semester to cover everything with more details. It's a pity because, yes, I've realized after this and in other moments that I read and study poetry, the terms and these things, that the power of, or the benefits we can get from poetry. Yes, it's not easy. I know, I live it, I experience it. It's not easy, and we have a capacity. It's just there are others that we can develop this talent or discover it and improve it. Yes, it's possible. I'm trying. I am trying. So I encourage you. I motivate you to try exploring. Writing is therapeutic. And when you express yourself, when maybe there's nobody to listen to you, and you feel something, maybe you feel sad or you feel so happy, but you cannot share with anyone. Well, if you write it, that helps a lot. That makes you feel great. So when you read something written by a famous author, famous poet, like let's say Emily Dickinson, so great. I cannot compare myself to her. I would like, but that could be maybe a long process. Maybe someday I could. But how when they, I'm sure that when they started, they were not masters. They were not perfect. They were beginners, and they continue. And then we know them today. They're still alive with their poems. They're still alive. Many of them, they are not those famous writers. They are not like Emily Dickinson. They are not alive, but she's still alive in her poetry, and that talent to express herself and try to encourage you to feel the same way. I mean, it makes you feel that you are not alone, but that what she left long time ago, we can also experience that in today's world. So, well, to encourage you, look at this poem. Okay, look at this poem. It says feelings. Yeah, a couple of minutes, please. You see, it says talks about feelings. Okay, how you feel at specific moments of your life. Okay, lonely. We are never alone. Okay, no, never. Happy? Yes, sometimes, because we can't be happy all the time. Yeah, sometimes we have moments of happiness. Why? Friends, love, the family, love, laughs, tears fill my heart. So the happy moments and the sad moments, yeah, they fill our hearts. So laughs, tears fill my heart. Sounds, melodies feed my soul. Sounds, melodies feed my soul. Tranquil, peaceful nature. In other words, God. So a very short poem that I wrote. This is my nickname, Nia. And I never thought that I could write something. Maybe it's not perfect. Maybe it's not that beautiful. I don't know. But that was something that I felt a specific moment. And because sometimes people, if they see you alone, they might think, oh, she's so sad. Maybe she's not enjoying life. And this is something that is not only for this speaker here, it could happen to many of you. Imagine during the pandemic, many of us were alone. So feelings. So this is the effect of poetry on each one of us. So I encourage you to try. It's possible. Maybe now you can write very short poem, but in the future you continue reading, because it requires a lot of reading. Literature's reading, literature's analysis. And we need a dictionary. Yes, even the best writers, yes, they need the dictionary. So let's practice and let's enjoy that process. Okay, you feel so great after you create something like this. It doesn't matter if it's good or not, but it's something that is part of you. So I share this, my poem. This is my poem. I encourage you to try to write yours. And that's coming for the second topic on Wednesday. You will write your own poem. So wait for that moment, and don't be scared. No fear. You will see that you can do it. So, well, that's all. With this, I finished with my presentation. Thank you. I hope that you enjoy it. You liked it. I know it was too much. It takes time, review, reading. So Okay, that's all I had for you. Okay, wait. But what I'm
So,
doing,
Professor,
yeah. Okay.
do we have
Yes.
a task in Padlet?
Sorry?
Do we have a task in Padlet?
Oh no. It was just to share at the beginning. Yes, to share your comment, your opinion, your own definition, how you see poetry. Yeah, I'm gonna read. Yes, I will read. I will read what you did there. But that is not the last activity. Yes. Thank you, Karen, for participating. Any other question? Impressions? How do you feel now that we've seen all this?
Hi, Hania. I just wanted to congratulate you for such an
Dorita, oh,
yes,
so good to
big and
see you.
encouraging conference and topic. So congratulations. I know you've worked very hard and you did an excellent job. So I'm very pleased with everything you have explained. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your motivation. That's great. Yeah. Marisol?
Well, can I say something before?
Go ahead.
I was motivated enough to write something, to write a poem, but I just heard that you said that for Wednesday we would have to do write one. So I don't know if I should wait until Wednesday, or maybe I should read it.
Well,
to
but
you
there's specific instruction for that Wednesday or that day, but no problem. I would like to see yours. Yes.
So can I just read it to you, or take a picture, or maybe write it somewhere?
I love to, but I don't know, Marisol, if we can, or the participants. What do you say?
Well, how long will it take? 2 minutes? 1 minute? In 1 minute, can you read it?
Maybe 30 seconds. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Here it goes. Goodbye, Seferino. Chitre and the whole country is crying today, a singing and dancing cry to celebrate the entrance of our American Titan into the pearly gates. A happy and faithful soul, a musically gifted man, a man full of talents, a committed and reliable man, a loving person to all, an honorable man who honored, a beautiful, sweet smile, a missed whole.
Wow.
Wow, Bebita. Good. Very good. Beautiful. It sounds like an elegy. Yeah, it's somebody who died. Yeah. Who died?
Severino Nieto is a
the folklore, in the folklore. Yes. Oh, yeah.
He was he and I were in the same choir for several years at church. So it's very
Herrera
close
is
to me.
crying, right? Herrera is crying for that. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, thank you for sharing. Beautiful.
Okay.
Continue writing.
Thank you.
Sometimes I do. It kind of comes like, those.
That was nice. Very nice. Thank you, Bebita. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Professor. We really learned today, and you explained a lot of things that maybe some of us don't know, and maybe some things that we know, but thank you very much for this deep explanation about all those things that are needed when we are teaching this kind of subject. And also, I would like to say something to Professor Marisol. I was trying to log into Google Classroom, but in the mail that the university sent me appeared a code, but I was thinking that it is the code for login to Zoom, but not for Google Classroom.
Remember that, Karen, and all of the ones that are there, remember that it is Google Classroom. That means that you have to have a Google email or a compatible one to be able to access. The university's email, the UPACPA, is not compatible with Google Classroom. So you have to open an account and send it to me so that I could give you access through that, but a Google email.
Yes, I have it. I have it. The only thing that I need is the code to log into Google Classroom. I
Well,
have
then,
the email account.
okay, then open that email, and through that email, access Google Classroom with the link that you have. Okay. All right. Any other question? You all have the link in your emails, so please access Google Classroom. All right, because the professors are going to be uploading their assignments today. Okay, and they are going to the PPTs are going to be uploaded too. So, I mean, if you want to have the information to do your assignments, you have to access Google Classroom. Remember that they are required, all right, to be able to get your certificate. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you all for being here, Professor Randy.
Yes, thank you, Professor Bonilla, for sharing your knowledge with us. We want to thank you all for being here today. And we would like to remind you that we will come back this Wednesday, August 16 at 8 a.m. And we ask you to be on time, all right? Remember to sign the attendance list and do the assignments.
Yeah, the attendance list is, there is also something that is going on. There are some that paid for the enrollment, but they have not enrolled. They have not filled out the form that the extension office sent them. Okay, so you have to fill out that form, and then you have to send me your email to be able to send you the link for your Google Classroom. Otherwise, I mean, if you're just paying and you don't enroll, that means that you're making a donation. Okay, because you have to enroll in the seminar. That's it. I mean, that's how it is. You're making a donation. You have to enroll in the seminar that you are taking. You're not, I mean, you don't send money just because you want to send money. You have to give an explanation through the Google form that the extension and coordination office is sending you. Okay, so that's up to you. That you are the only one that can do it. We cannot do it for you. All right. Okay. Anything else?
Yes, I just got mixed up because Randy just said that we were going to meet on Wednesday. How about tomorrow?
Tomorrow is the day of Panama.
Foundation.
Yeah, the Foundation of Panama. So it
Oh,
is.
that's right.
Yeah, that's why it is until Saturday. Remember that we send
So-
the dates 14, 16, 17, 18, and 19.
I didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, put it in your calendar because on Saturday you
Oh,
have to be in class.
Saturday. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. I hadn't noticed that. All right. See you Wednesday then.
Yeah, see you Wednesday. You have a free day. Praise God. You have a free day. Whoa.
Well, we'll make it up on Saturday. So,
Any other
all
questions?
righty.
Well, I would like the speakers to stay and the committee, please. Then if you don't have any questions or comments, thank you for being here today. I enjoyed the 2 lectures. I mean, they were so good. So good. Actually, I remembered so many things that I studied before. Wow, a bunch of knowledge. I'm going to start reading more poetry and practicing. Thank you.